Vol 2, Chapter 844, The Lost Fleet. Whizzing sounds filled the air as the hunter, armed with a blaster rifle, fired relentlessly at the enemy, swiftly taking down several Grand Marines clad in space combat gear. Amidst the chaos, the Wrecker King let out a ferocious roar, hoisting a 6-barrel blasting machine gun over his shoulder and unleashing a barrage of fire that pinned the enemy down, rendering them incapable of retaliating. In a secluded corner, a sharpshooter with a sniper rifle methodically eliminated Grand soldiers, particularly those wielding heavy weapons like bazookas. 12 o'clock, 8 incoming, including a destroyer, the technician reported, scrutinizing the battlefield through a telescope. A gunshot echoed, and the rolling destroyer robot was taken out with a precise shot before it could activate its shield. "The destroyer's down. The rest is up to you," the sharpshooter stated calmly, cleaning his scope as the gunfire around them gradually subsided. "Let's see. The bridge is 13 floors up from here, about 600 meters away," the technician said, connecting his personal terminal to a nearby warship's computer. After hacking into the system, he pulled up the internal structure of the plague. "There's an elevator ahead, but it's been destroyed. We can climb up the shaft." "Let's go then." "Ha!" The Wrecker King, still carrying the heavy machine gun, laughed heartily. The sudden appearance of the Lucre Hook-class battleship and its collision with the plague had caused chaos. Numerous shuttles swarmed out, with some heading towards the Blade Fleet to seize ships, while others aimed to clear out the Republic clone army inside the plague. Fortunately, the Granite's combat effectiveness was lacking. Before they could establish a foothold, the hunter team made a beeline for the plague's bridge, drawing the attention of the Granites, who began to dispatch forces in pursuit. Despite being outnumbered, the hunter team leveraged the chaotic terrain to their advantage, engaging the Granites with remarkable resilience. The Granites, unfamiliar with the plague's layout, found themselves lost amidst the wreckage. "Battleship 112 has landed. Battleship 191 has landed." There's a firefight with the Republic Marine Corps on Battleship 77. The shuttle to Battleship 142 was shot down, requesting support. Darth Marthael listened to the disordered communications from the battlefield. Like many native soldiers in the galaxy, the Grand Marines were poorly equipped and lacked combat strength, many resorting to using the E5 blaster rifle. Despite its power, the rifle's flawed cooling system made it impractical for prolonged use, overheating quickly. The Granites, facing an equipment shortage, were issued heat-insulating gloves to manage the rifle's temperature, a testament to their compromised fighting capability. However, their sheer numbers were a force to be reckoned with. Hundreds of thousands of Granites swarmed against the clone soldiers. Despite sustaining heavy losses, over 50,000 Granites from the Rukrihuk-class battleship remained combat-ready. Following their officers' commands, they boarded shuttles to the Blade Fleet's warships. With more than 120 warships now under Grand control, the majority of the Blade Fleet had fallen into their hands. "Everything is under control," Darth Marthael muttered, turning off the communication device and gazing down at the fierce battle unfolding below, where Severance Tan Shenjon and his apprentice Nat Reith were locked in intense combat. Tan's swordsmanship was clearly inferior to Shenjon's, but she had an advantage. She wore the Darth Massa Gauntlet, a gift from Il to Little Kleish. This gauntlet could generate a powerful force barrier, rendering any attack ineffective. Under its protection, neither Shenjon nor Nat Reith could land a blow on Severance Tan. In her frenzy, Tan laughed maniacally. "Ha! Feel my wrath, Jedi Knight! Your day has come." Her approach was aggressive, focusing solely on attacking without any defense, leaving her op, one-ence no opportunity to counter. Spotting a moment of weakness in Nat Reith, whose physical stamina seemed to wane, Tan launched a ferocious assault. Shenjon attempted to intervene, his sword aimed at her back, but the gauntlet's barrier repelled his attack. In a tragic turn, Tan's yellow lightsaber pierced the chest of the young Jedi apprentice. "No!" Shenjon's cry was filled with despair. His eyes reddened with fury as he felt the pull of the dark side growing stronger within him. Tan, emboldened, attacked again, but Shenjon, now consumed by anger and hatred, was a changed fighter. The gauntlet, designed only for defense, could not aid Tan in breaching Shenjan's improved defenses. With a powerful slash, Shenjan managed to create distance between them, propelled back by the force of the gauntlet. He looked upwards, shouting defiantly, "It's you! Release me! You are the puppeteer behind all this." "I am pleased to witness the growth of your darkness, Master Shenjan," Darth Marthiel's voice began from above, only to finish chillingly close from behind. Shenjan spun around, his lightsaber meeting the clash of another. This one, a deeper shade of red, its glow seemingly alive with the tormented screams of souls. Severance Tan, until now focused on her duel, finally noticed Darth Marthiel. Shocked, she gasped, "You are the Angel of Death." Shenjan's gaze was fierce, filled with betrayal and anger. "You orchestrated all of this. Join me. I will show you the true depths of the dark side, reveal the truths obscured by shadows, and together we can conquer this galaxy," Darth Marthiel proposed, his voice carrying a seductive power. "I would rather fall into the abyss than succumb to you." Shenjan's voice was a guttural roar, his connection to the dark side intensifying. His lightsaber became a blur, casting shadows that lunged at Darth Marthiel. Darth Marthiel, unfazed, countered with a calm precision, showcasing the Sorsu form of lightsaber combat, unmovable as a mountain. The dark energy surrounding Shenjan surged, his attacks growing more ferocious, forcing Darth Marthiel to acknowledge the threat seriously. Their lightsabers moved too fast for the eye to follow, a dance of premonition and counter-premonition, each trying to outmaneuver the other's foresight. "You are merely scratching the surface of the dark side," Darth Marthiel taunted, his face twisted in a grotesque smile. Suddenly, his power exploded, and his lightsaber seemed to cut through the very fabric of time and space. In a devastating moment, Shenjan's right hand, still clutching his lightsaber, fell to the ground, severed. Volume 2, Chapter 845, The Lost Fleet, 16, The Fourth Scourge of the Star Wars Mai. With a sharp gasp, Shenjan clasped his wrist and knelt on the ground. Darth Marthiel advanced slowly, his hand raised, effortlessly summoning the lightsaber from Shenjan's severed hand through the air. "I want you to die." Shenjan, fueled by a sudden surge of rage, raised his intact hand, unleashing a formidable force lightning towards Darth Marthiel. Darth Marthiel, unfazed, deflected the lightning with his lightsaber, his gaze fixed on Shenjan, who was visibly struggling under the increasing pressure. As Darth Marthiel continued to advance, Shenjan found himself retreating until he was finally forced to the ground. Darth Marthiel skillfully redirected Shenjan's lightning, taunting him with a grin. "I can feel it, your inner anger, your hatred, and your fear. You have the potential to become a powerful Sith Lord." You're dreaming." Shenjan spat out defiantly, his teeth clenched so tightly that his gums bled. "I will never, never succumb to the darkness." Darth Marthiel turned to Severance Tan, who stood by his side, and commanded, "It's your turn. Do as you please." The dark side's golden glow flickered in his eyes, its absorbing power nearly overwhelming. Severance Tan, empowered by the dark side and the security of Little Kleish's gauntlets, felt a surge of invincibility and a desire to dominate the galaxy. A murderous intent towards Darth Marthiel simmered within her, fueled by a whispering voice in her heart, urging her to seize the moment of his distraction with Shenjan and kill him. The gauntlets would protect her from any counterattack, promising her unmatched power and the throne of the Dawn Planet. As Severance Tan's resolve strengthened, she caught a glimpse of amusement in Darth Marthiel's eyes, which felt like a bucket of ice water dousing her fiery resolve. Her strength drained away, and she knelt, removing the gauntlets and placing them respectfully before her. "My thoughts and actions are guided by your will, my master," she said, bowing deeply. Darth Marthiel laughed maniacally, reveling in the display of loyalty and fear. "Even with all the hatred and anger in her heart, she wouldn't dare to harm a hair on your head without my permission. You are all but ants beneath my feet." He then offered Shenjan one final chance to surrender, his voice echoing ominously around them. "Never!" Shenjan roared with all his might, refusing to yield. "Then surrender to death." Darth Marthiel intensified his attack, pushing Shenjan's lightning back towards him with the lightsaber. The blade inched closer to Shenjan's face, his own lightning scorching his body, until Darth Marthiel's lightsaber seared half of his face, leaving it charred. All paths lead to death, Darth Marthael declared, unleashing a force lightning even more powerful than Shen Zhan's, marking the culmination of their confrontation. In a moment of sheer chaos, the floor beneath Shen Zhan gave way, creating a vast chasm that led directly into the cold vacuum of space. The sudden change in air pressure caused a violent suction, pulling Shen Zhan in a whirlwind of debris outwards. Darth Marthael, quick to react, used the force to seize a large chunk of the flooring, sealing the breach and halting the perilous vacuum. Amidst the wreckage of the once formidable battleship, Darth Marthael's fury was palpable. He grabbed Severance Tan by the hair, forcing her to witness the destruction around them. "Observe the chaos. Fool, look at what surrounds us," he bellowed, throwing her into an adjacent cabin that miraculously remained intact. He pinned her against the wall, his voice seething with anger. "This is the Plague, the mightiest battleship in the galaxy, now in ruins because of you." As if on cue, another explosion rocked the upper decks, the shockwaves reverberating through the structure. Darth Marthael glanced at his communicator, his anger intensifying upon reading the update. A squad of clone troopers had successfully breached the bridge and detonated it. Enraged, he turned his wrath back onto Severance Tan, delivering a vicious kick. "You owe me a Titan, you fool!" Severance Tan coughed up blood, her body racked with pain. Darth Marthael, relentless, tore off her belt and used it as a conduit for his lightning, striking her mercilessly. The electric shocks left her skin charred, her screams for mercy falling on deaf ears. Darth Marthael was unmoved by her pleas, his face twisted in a grimace of rage as he continued his assault. Severance Tan's once elegant attire was now in tatters, barely clinging to her battered body. Despite the bruises and scars that marred her skin, her physique, a testament to rigorous training, remained evident. Her once proud and alluring presence was now diminished, her body a canvas of suffering. Darth Marthael, consumed by a dark fervor, discarded his cloak and proceeded to tear away the remnants of Severance Tan's clothing. His actions grew increasingly violent, driven by a twisted sense of domination. Severance Tan's weak protests only fueled his brutality further. "I am your greatest fear, Severance Tan, your eternal master!" Darth Marthael roared, his voice echoing ominously through the cabin. "You will serve me, and together we will conquer the galaxy." The chilling scene unfolded in the silence of the destroyed cabin, marked only by Severance Tan's faint cries, a stark reminder of the darkness that lurked within Darth Marthael. Volume 2, Chapter 846, The Lost 17th. Date, January 16, 21 BBY, 4:22 a.m. GST. Location, Halm Galaxy, aboard the flagship Elder of the Galactic Republic's 20th Army Fleet. Governor Octavian Grant, commander of the 20th Army, anxiously watched the clock, with only 570 seconds remaining. Beads of cold sweat formed on his forehead, and his fists clenched so tightly they trembled. The news from the Blade Fleet's direction was increasingly dire. Just half an hour earlier, a Lucre Hook-class battleship of the Separatists had initiated a hyperspace jump right before their eyes and vanished. Initially, Octavian hoped it was merely an attempt to flee or a random jump due to malfunction. However, it soon became clear that the battleship had reappeared among the Blade Fleet. Despite suffering significant damage from colliding with the Plague after its jump, it managed to deliver substantial reinforcements. Furthermore, with the arrival of the Lucre Hook-class battleship, equipped with an advanced high-power electronic jamming system, the Separatists swiftly gained control over the electromagnetic battlefield environment, severing communication with the Blade Fleet. Why? Could they initiate the jump earlier? Octavian, gripping the communicator, gritted his teeth in frustration. Though he lacked the strength to crush the device, his grip caused it to rattle ominously. It is believed that powerful Force users possess this capability, which suggests the presence of a fallen Jedi aboard the Separatist ship. Currently, Jedi Master Obi-Wan Kenobi is en route, and he too can assist us in achieving hyperspace jumps without the need for navigation, his adjutant reported respectfully. It's too late. Octavian sighed deeply. This hyperspace tide represents our last opportunity. Actually, the adjutant hesitated before speaking. The staff recommends a retreat. The situation with the Blade Fleet is deteriorating. In the worst-case scenario, upon entering that airspace, we could find ourselves besieged by numerous dreadnought-class heavy cruisers. Octavian shook his head firmly. No, it's not time to retreat yet. We still have an opportunity. The Separatists lack the key to activate the battleship. They must first bypass the ship's security systems. Meanwhile, we can activate the battleship immediately. This gives us a crucial advantage in timing. The navigator approached, saluting. Your Excellency Governor, the hyperspace channel's parameters have been confirmed. We can initiate the jump as soon as the countdown concludes. Begin warming up the hyperdrive immediately. Divert power from the turrets to enhance the shields, Octavian commanded decisively. The energy parameters of the Separatist battleship have been scanned, a radar operator reported. They've also reduced turret output, and their shield energy is on the rise, Octavian observed, eyeing the Separatist fleet on the screen. So, we'll meet on the next battlefield. As the countdown ended, the vast expanse of space remained seemingly unchanged. However, the hyperspace sensors detected the formation of an unstable passage within the chaotic hyperspace. This passage, shimmering like a flexible streamer, brushed past the Blade Fleet's location. At that precise moment, both Octavian Grant and Admiral Trench, the supreme commanders of their respective fleets, issued their orders simultaneously. Initiate the hyperdrive. Begin the jump. At 4:35 a.m., within the airspace occupied by the Blade Fleet, aboard the Titan battleship Plague, a heavy turbo laser turret adjusted its aim. The turret began to charge, loading a massive shell filled with explosive gas into the barrel. Upon the operator's command, a violent reaction occurred, creating a super-explosive plasma cluster that was then propelled from the barrel at incredible speed. Amidst the dark, cosmic starry sky, a green plasma cluster, traveling at a speed of at least 1/5 the speed of light, streaked across space before exploding against the hull of an Aquitens-class light cruiser. The devastating explosion left the Hunter team and the dozens surviving clone fighters in awe as they observed the massive turret through the porthole, engulfed in silence. The marksman cleaned his scope, raised his sniper rifle, aimed towards the turret, and then lowered it again. The white line is finished, along with the light cruiser, the technician lamented, reviewing the battlefield data on his personal terminal. Our fleet is being decimated. Even after we destroyed the Bridge of the Plague, they still have personnel in the turret to control it. The Plague isn't completely incapacitated. A super battleship of this magnitude wouldn't rely on a single command center, the Hunter remarked. Damn it! Find another command center and destroy it! The Wrecker King bellowed in frustration. The mechanic shook his head. There's no chance. At least 1,000 granite soldiers aboard the Plague are now hunting for us. After we destroyed the bridge, they've been thoroughly alerted, and we can't stay hidden here for much longer. Then what do we do? The Wrecker King, furious, slammed his fist against the wall. As the Hunter was about to respond, a metal plate beside them shifted. Everyone reacted instantly, aiming more than a dozen blaster guns at the source. However, when they attempted to pull the triggers, they found them jammed. Don't be hasty, soldiers. The metal plate was lifted, and Zabrak Jedi Master Ithkoth stepped in, leaning weakly against the wall. General Ithkoth! 2 clone troopers rushed to support him. Ithkoth was covered in bruises, gunshot wounds, and burns. His cloak was torn, and blood seeped from beneath his tight suit. A piece of shrapnel, deeply embedded in his waist, was his most severe and nearly fatal wound. General, I'll treat your wounds, said the clone soldier known as Iron Box, revealing he was a medic. He quickly applied a hemostatic potion, carefully removed the shrapnel, sealed the wound with stem cell spray, and finally used a nanomedicine device for healing. In less than 2 minutes, Ithkoth's critical wound had significantly healed. Thank you, soldier. Since the impact, I've been searching for you. Now, aboard this ship, you represent our last hope. Fortunately, the Separatists are unaware of this. They're scattered across the ship, searching. This dispersal is our opportunity, Ithkoth explained. What's the plan, General? The Hunter asked, determination in his voice. Our presence on the Plague serves no purpose now. There's a shuttle parked near a damaged cabin about 800 meters from here. Seize it. Then, commandeer a Dreadnought-class heavy cruiser and return it to the Republic. That's the last action we can take, Ithkoth instructed. No problem, let's do it, the Wrecker King exclaimed, his voice booming with resolve. Wait, Ithkoth cautioned. Don't rush. I'll draw some of the enemies away first. Seize the opportunity when you see it. You are all capable soldiers. You know when and what to do. But, General, Ironbox hesitated. No more discussion. As a Jedi Knight, my survival chances are far greater than yours. Once you secure the shuttle, take off immediately. That's an order, Ithkoth stated firmly. The marksman nodded, picking up his sniper rifle. Good soldiers follow orders. We will execute the plan. Ithkoth gave a heavy nod, glanced at the dozen clone troopers, then lifted the metal plate and dashed out. Moments later, the sound of angry roars and gunfire from the granites echoed outside. The hunter stood solemnly, nodding slightly in rhythm, ready to act on their desperate plan. Calculating the position and distance of the gunshots, the hunter slammed his hand against the wall decisively. Now, go, he commanded. More than a dozen clone troopers immediately sprang into action, moving swiftly towards their target. Along the way, they encountered scattered Grand soldiers and B-1 combat droids, all of which were swiftly neutralized by the clone troopers. Their path was marked by a trail of defeated enemies, leading them to a damaged cabin where a Grand shuttle was parked. The Plague's hangar platform had been destroyed and its storage area severely damaged. When the Grand Marines arrived, they found an entry point through the gaps and holes in the already battered warship, drilling directly into the landing area. The few remaining Grand soldiers posed little challenge and were quickly dealt with by the clone troopers, who then boarded the shuttle. The hunter, bringing up the rear, provided covering fire for his team, suppressing the Grand soldiers who were in hot pursuit. The sound of gunfire and explosions continued unabated in the distance, signaling that Ithkoth was engaged in a fierce battle with a large number of Grand soldiers. Taking a deep breath and clenching his fists, the hunter hesitated for a moment. "Hunter," a voice called out from behind him, deep and commanding. "A good soldier obeys orders." The hunter turned, nodded solemnly, and returned to the shuttle to close the hatch. The shuttle took off immediately, accelerating to maximum speed and heading towards the Blade fleet. Suddenly, the airspace was filled with flashes of white light, signaling the arrival of a large fleet jumping out of hyperspace. The technician piloting the shuttle shouted, "A battleship is coming!" Before he could finish, dozens of massive warships materialized, opening fire on their targets without hesitation. "It's our fleet!" The technician exclaimed, spotting a dozen Chaser-class battlecruisers on the sensor screen, along with Separatist forces. The fleet included 2 Rookie Hook-class battleships, Cole-class battlecruisers, Martha-class heavy cruisers, and Sova-class aircraft carriers, all bearing the hexagonal emblem of the Confederation of Independent Systems. The airspace around the shuttle was immediately engulfed in a storm of lasers, blaster beams, and missiles. The alarm on the console blared incessantly as the technician struggled to navigate the shuttle through the chaotic battlefield, likened to a boat in a stormy sea. Both fleets launched their fighter jets, which headed straight for the Blade fleet instead of engaging each other's warships. The technician focused intently on piloting the shuttle, trying to avoid being hit by stray fire. "There! An unoccupied Dreadnought-class battleship," he pointed out. "No!" the hunter interjected urgently. "Find a warship controlled by the Separatists." His expression was grave as he added, "We don't have time to warm up the engine of a battleship." Acknowledging the hunter's command, the technician quickly changed course, heading towards a Dreadnought-class heavy cruiser that had already started its engines. Just then, 2 Vulture droid fighters locked onto their shuttle, swooping in with their laser cannons blazing. The red lasers struck the shuttle's deflector shield, creating bursts of energy ripples. "We're being targeted. Hurry!" the hunter shouted. "I know. I have a plan," the technician responded, executing a command remotely while maneuvering the spacecraft. The hangar platform of the Dreadnought-class heavy cruiser began to close just as the shuttle made its daring entrance, narrowly escaping the pursuing droid fighters. In the moment the hatch sealed shut, 2 Vulture robot fighters failed to evade in time, crashing directly into the battleship. "Quick! Quick! Grab the ship! Grab the ship!" The Wrecker King bellowed, charging out with his 6-barrel blasting machine gun, followed by over a dozen soldiers. The Grand Marines aboard the battleship, having been alerted, quickly assembled to form a defensive line facing the hangar platform. A barrage of blast beams rained down as the clone troopers sought cover. "No! There are too many of them!" Ironbox yelled in desperation. The technician, working feverishly at the terminal, suddenly brightened. "Yes, Wrecker King, hold them off. I'll be right back." "What are you planning?" The Wrecker King, unable to glance back amidst the chaos, continued to fire relentlessly, holding back the advancing Grand soldiers from behind the barrack. The number of Grand soldiers surged, with at least hundreds charging towards their position. "Damn it! What is the technician up to?" The Wrecker King roared, discarding his now empty 6-barrel blasting machine gun for a pistol, firing a rapid burst that momentarily halted the Grand soldier's advance. As his complaint echoed, an explosion suddenly rocked the cabin on the opposite side. 3 bipedal combat armors, towering over 4 meters tall, charged into the fray. Upon their arrival, they unleashed a devastating barrage on the Grand soldiers with their dual blaster bombs, causing the enemy to scatter in panic. The technician's laughter boomed over the communication line. The Blade Fleet's battleship is loaded with ATXT walkers. "Oh, this is incredible. Forward! Seize the ship." Overwhelmed with excitement, the Wrecker King leaped from his cover and led the charge. Under the protective fire of the ATXT walkers, they carved a path towards the battleship's bridge. As they passed a row of portholes, the hunter paused to gaze at the burning expanse of space beyond, his expression somber. But most of these assets will end up in the hands of the Separatists. Volume 2, Chapter 847, The Lost Fleet, Conclusion. The engines of a Dreadnought-class heavy cruiser roared to life, ejecting numerous withered corpses of the Republic's judicial fleet crew through its hatches. It then activated its shields and turned its guns to unleash a barrage on the Republic's fleet, commanded by Octavian Grant. The arrival of the Lucrehook-class battleship, piloted by Munter, at the Blade Fleet's location nearly 40 minutes earlier, proved to be a pivotal moment in the battle. Despite colliding with the plague, over 50,000 Grand Marines poured out, overwhelming the Dreadnought-class heavy cruiser of the Blade Fleet. Within the next hour, an additional 15,000 Marines, having recovered from minor injuries, joined the fray, capturing over 150 Dreadnought-class heavy cruisers. As the main fleets of both factions converged on the battlefield, most of these warships were still in the process of powering up their engines. However, 7 or 8 warships managed to engage in the conflict. Over time, the number of Dreadnought-class heavy cruisers joining the battle increased, significantly tipping the scales in favor of the attackers. The fleets led by Admiral Trench and Octavian Grant found themselves locked in a fierce melee with the Blade Fleet. Neither side showed any signs of retreat or compromise, deploying a vast number of Marines to board and seize control of the Dreadnought-class heavy cruisers in a frenzied struggle. Meanwhile, within the plague, the end was near. Jedi Master Ith Koth, battered and bruised, leaned against a corner for support. His hands trembled as he gripped his lightsaber, and several blaster wounds on his arms made it nearly impossible for him to wield it effectively. More than a dozen B-2 super battle droids aimed their blaster guns at the beleaguered Jedi Master, while Granite soldiers kept their distance, wary of approaching too closely. In the past, Ith Koth had slain hundreds of them in desperate combat. However, at this moment, when they could have easily overwhelmed him, they parted, making way for Darth Marthael. Dressed in a black cloak, Darth Marthael approached Ith Koth and coldly stated, "Master Ith Koth, surrender. The Galactic Republic has suffered another defeat. Soon, failure will become a habit for you." Ith Koth, with a vacant gaze, looked at Darth Marthael but remained silent, mustering all his strength to adopt a feeble defensive stance with his lightsaber. Darth Marthael sneered, effortlessly disarming Ith Koth with a wave of his hand. "Seize him," he commanded. The Granite soldiers, previously hesitant, now surged forward with renewed vigor, pinning Ith Koth to the ground and handcuffing him. Darth Marthael, sneering beside the captured Jedi, remarked, "Capturing one of the 12 members of the Supreme Council of the Jedi Order is certainly significant news, wouldn't you agree?" He crouched down, lightly patting Ith Koth's face with the back of his hand, though Ith Koth was nearly unconscious and unresponsive. Standing up, Darth Marthale issued an order. Inform Trench to accelerate our efforts. I refuse to allow the Republic's vermin to continue threatening my blade fleet. On the flagship of the Republic fleet, the Chaser-class battlecruiser Elder, an adjutant approached Octavian Grant with a grim report. Your Excellency, the Separatists have seized control of more than 3/4 of the Blade Fleet's battleships. Currently, these ships are merely warming up their engines, but if this situation persists, we face the prospect of catastrophic losses. Octavian Grant inquired, how many ships have we successfully secured? The adjutant replied, we have boarded 37 warships so far, most of which are still contested. However, I must admit, the outlook is bleak, as the Separatists have deployed a formidable force. Octavian Grant nodded solemnly, acknowledging the dire situation. The Separatists boasted 3 Lucrehut-class battleships, their firepower vastly outstripping our own. Damn Jiwen! I slammed my fist against the console in frustration. If in aught for Shaman's reckless decision to deploy hyperspace blockers in their galaxy, I wouldn't have been forced to rush in with just a squadron of Chaser-class battlecruisers. We should have brought along some Cheer-class assault landing ships. Taking several deep breaths to calm myself, I finally ordered, notify all Marines that we have 20 minutes. After that, we retreat immediately. The adjutant saluted crisply and acknowledged, yes, sir. The final 20 minutes of the battle were devastating. The Galactic Republic's forces, comprised solely of Chaser-class battlecruisers, fielded less than 20,000 Marines. In stark contrast, the Fourth Civilization's 3 Lucrehut-class battleships deployed a full army of 300,000. Despite the Republic's Marines being elite clone soldiers, they faced an insurmountable disadvantage, outnumbered nearly 15-1, rendering their efforts futile. Tang Xiao had strategically chosen to deploy 300,000 troops instead of 600,000 robots aboard the Lucrehut-class battleships. In the intricate environment of boarding battles, the adaptability and decision-making capabilities of living soldiers far surpassed that of robots. Before the arrival of the main fleets, Severance Tan's remnants had captured 6 dreadnoughts, while Shenjan's forces secured 2 more. Munti's preemptive strike saw Marines from the Lucrehut-class battleships boarding 170 of the remaining 192 dreadnoughts. Even without full control over these ships, they managed to lock down the hangar doors, a critical move. Upon the arrival of the main fleets, intense boarding actions ensued. The Galactic Republic's Marines managed to breach 37 dreadnoughts, largely because they possessed the access codes. Without full control over the ship's systems, the Fourth Civilization's forces couldn't prevent the Republic from remotely opening the hatches to allow their troops inside. In the battle's final phase, the Republic focused on securing 39 Dreadnought-class heavy cruisers. Admiral Trench, upon reviewing the situation, ordered the destruction of any Dreadnought-class cruisers beyond recapture. Concurrently, Octavian Grant, commander of the Galactic Republic's 20th Army, ordered a full retreat. The Republic managed to salvage only 15 Dreadnought-class heavy cruisers, leaving 178 in the hands of the Fourth Civilization, with 7 destroyed during the conflict. Thus, the battle for the Blade Fleet concluded in chaos. Following the Republic's withdrawal, Tang Xiao commanded the fleets to commence immediate repairs. He also ordered the placement of hyperspace navigation beacons to guide the engineering fleet for maintenance and repairs of the captured Blade Fleet battleships. Most crucially, efforts were made to revive the Titan battleship Plague, a once feared behemoth now lying dormant, its ability to navigate severely compromised. This steel monster, which had once haunted the galaxy, was on the brink of death. Volume 2, Chapter 848, Counting the Harvest. The Halm galaxy had suddenly become a hive of activity, with a continuous stream of transport and engineering ships arriving. Following the successful capture of 178 Dreadnought-class heavy cruisers from the Blade Fleet, Tang Xiao wasted no time in ordering immediate repairs. These warships, having lain dormant in the void for 25 years, required extensive maintenance and updates. Their internal systems needed overhauling, fuel and energy supplies had to be replenished with new sources, and most critically, the entire fleet required thorough disinfection. The Blade Fleet had vanished, due to a rampant brain plague among its crew, and even after a quarter-century, there was no guarantee that the pathogen had been eradicated from the ship's confines. Moreover, these Dreadnought-class warships necessitated a complete software overhaul to replace their operating systems, given their origins from the Galactic Republic's judicial fleets. Thus, the Halm Galaxy served as a temporary base for the Blade Fleet, with the 178 warships anchored securely, transforming the planet into an impregnable fortress. Amidst this bustling activity, the Ragnarov-class Titan battleship, Plague, was undergoing urgent repairs. The Plague had been severely crippled. Its bridge command center was destroyed. One of its energy rails for the metamaterial electromagnetic gun was severed, and the outer armor of 3 others was extensively damaged. These energy rails were not to be underestimated, each stretching over 9,000 meters in length and weighing hundreds of millions of tons. The battleship's hangar platform was obliterated, its shield capacitor compartment was in ruins, the antimatter manufacturing section was 4/5 destroyed, and the projectile processing plant for the supermatter electromagnetic gun was completely wiped out. Over half of the living area was demolished, and the hyperspace engine suffered significant damage. The battleship's energy supply was operating at less than 20% of its normal capacity, even after emergency repairs. Over 40% of its outer armor belt was penetrated, with more than 1,170 external compartments destroyed, compromising the vessel's airtight integrity. Upon activating the life support system, air escaped from countless breaches. Fortunately, the gravity generator remained functional, greatly facilitating the engineers and SCVs tasked with the battleship's refurbishment. According to assessments by scientists from the Fourth Civilization, restoring the Plague to its former glory would require a comprehensive overhaul lasting at least 5 years. For Tang Xiao, the leader of the Fourth Civilization, this was disheartening news. The Fourth Civilization's fleet strategy heavily relied on the integration of fleet shields and the offensive capabilities of Ragnarov-class Titan battleships. Despite their formidable firepower, these battleships suffered from poor continuous combat performance and vulnerability to enemy strikes, weaknesses that had been fully exploited in recent battles. The Plague had been relentlessly pursued for months, often bearing the brunt of enemy fire to provide support for the fleet. This damage was the inevitable outcome of such engagements. Politically, the Plague's assault on the planet Cato-Nemoidia had significantly shifted the Trade Federation's stance, marking a strategic victory. However, from a military perspective, despite the Plague's success in destroying 3 8,000-meter commander-class dreadnoughts of the Republic and numerous other large vessels, its own losses underscored the challenges faced by the Fourth Civilization's fleet. In Tang Xiao's perspective, the operation led by Severance Tan was a colossal failure. He believed this failure stemmed from Tan's lack of political acumen and her excessive use of force, which nearly destabilized the Trade Alliance's position and forced the Plague to retreat. However, at its core, the decision to let the Titan battleship Plague, known for its lack of mobility, infiltrate the Galactic Republic's core circle and raid the planet of Cato-Nemoidia was a massive gamble, both politically and militarily. Achieving this raid alone could justify Severance Tan being hailed as the most formidable superfleet commander in the galaxy at that time. Thus, in essence, Tang Xiao was deflecting blame. Despite Severance Tan's brilliance, her significant character flaws were undeniable. Even before Tang Xiao's arrival in this universe, Tan was criticized for her lack of respect for both enemies and allies, a trait that was glaringly obvious in reality. In the Chiss territory, Tan was a pampered genius, blessed with status, beauty, and wealth, alongside her unmatched talent, which contributed to her distorted personality. The downfall of her family only exacerbated these traits. Her character flaws played a crucial role in her eventual demise. After initiating a raid on Sarabin, sparking a month-long war, she was quickly killed by Shenzhan, who sought vengeance. Tang Xiao, while not openly admitting it, found a certain satisfaction in overcoming the cold and venomous Severance Tan in the heat of a large-scale battle. The contrast between the chaos of the battlefield outside and the intense confrontation inside was stark. Fortuitously, or perhaps due to sheer luck, Severance Tan's defeat turned into a remarkable victory when she discovered the Lost Blade fleet. This discovery, consisting of 178 Dreadnought-class heavy cruisers, revitalized the Fourth Civilization's fleet, which had suffered significant losses in the Battle of Terminus. With this newfound power, Tang Xiao could resume his assault on the Galactic Republic's 18th Army, aiming to capture the economically and strategically vital planet of Eliadu. Securing Eliadu would enable the Fourth Civilization to extend its influence across the galaxy's western region, ensuring a stable foundation even if the Confederacy of Independent Galaxies were to fall. In addition to the Dreadnought-class cruisers, the fleet was fully equipped for war, providing Tang Xiao with resources to arm through 320,000 troops, including combat gear, blaster rifles, machine guns, rocket launchers, and mortars. The fleet also contained over 1,700 Z-95 headhunters, which, despite being less advanced than the Ghost Fighters, would significantly bolster the defense forces of newly conquered territories like Haven Planet. Perhaps the most thrilling discovery was the inclusion of ATPT walking mechs within the Blade fleet. These two-legged mechs, predecessors to the ATSTs used by the Galactic Empire, stood 3 meters tall and 4 meters long, operable by a single soldier. Equipped with a dual-mounted Mk-1W blaster and a concussion grenade launcher, the ATPTs offered formidable firepower, marking a significant enhancement to the Fourth Civilization's military capabilities. The mecha in question boasts an impressive maximum speed of 60 kilometers per hour, with the capability to leap up to heights of approximately 5 meters when navigating off-road terrain, showcasing remarkable mobility. However, its design is not without flaws. The mecha's mechanical legs, while powerful, are notably fragile. In the event of a significant impact, these legs may fail to support the mecha's weight, rendering it prone to falling. Despite this vulnerability, as a single-soldier mecha, it performs admirably. This is particularly true within the ranks of the Blade Fleet's Dreadnought-class heavy cruisers, each outfitted with 30 ATPT walking mechs. This acquisition amounts to a total of 5,340 ATPTs, a formidable force by any measure. According to the organizational structure of the Fourth Civilization, this fleet could fully equip 5 mechanized divisions. For Tang Xiao, these gains significantly mitigate the despair brought on by the plague. With such a substantial asset now under his command, he must turn his attention to safeguarding it from the envious gazes of potential rivals. Volume 2, Chapter 849, Strategic Maneuvers. Helmut stood before Tang Xiao, presenting a document with a sense of urgency. If the plague requires a comprehensive overhaul, it must be transported back to the Titan dock on planet Yago-Dur, he reported. Tang Xiao dismissed the concern with a wave of his hand. The defense of Yago-Dur isn't something to worry about. Despite being a trinary star system, which presents a complex gravitational environment, it's not as inhospitable as some of the more infamous locations in the galaxy. The 2 Agonev-class starbases we've established there can easily fend off any Republic incursion. Zemo, catching on to a broader strategy, inquired, "Does this mean you're planning to have the Jiwen people openly align with the Confederation of Independent Systems?" "It's the logical outcome," Tang Xiao confirmed. "And the plague?" Zemo pressed. "It has no ties to Shay Man. We'll tow it to Port Palmant instead," Tang Xiao decided. Zemo paused, taken aback, before realization dawned on him. A smile spread across his face. "I must admit, that's a brilliant move." "Now that you understand, proceed with the arrangements," Tang Xiao instructed. "Understood," Zemo replied. Tang Xiao stood, straightening his attire before initiating a communication. The holographic projection flickered to life, revealing Count Dooku, the leader of the Confederation of Independent Systems, clad in a black cloak and exuding an aura of authority. Tang Xiao greeted him with a slight nod. "Count Dooku, I'm here to report a significant victory we've just achieved. Although I've heard rumors, hearing it from you is indeed astonishing. I await the details with great anticipation," Count Dooku responded, bowing slightly in invitation. "We've defeated a fleet of the Galactic Republic, capturing 178 Dreadnought-class heavy cruisers from the Blade Fleet. This victory significantly bolsters the strength of the Confederation of Independent Systems. Additionally, we've captured Jedi Master Yi Sai Koth, a member of the Jedi Order's High 12 Council, Tang Xiao announced. Count Dooku erupted into laughter. A truly stunning victory. We are steadily advancing towards our ultimate goal. When the day arrives, Your Excellency Tang Xiao, you will be at the forefront. My aim has always been the victory of the war, Tang Xiao humbly replied, exchanging pleasantries with Count Dooku before broaching a pressing issue. However, there's a challenging matter at hand. The Titan battleship Plague was severely damaged in the recent operation and requires extensive repairs. Unfortunately, we lack the facilities to maintain such a colossal vessel. I propose transferring the Plague to Port Palmont for repairs. Count Dooku's demeanor shifted to one of solemnity. Is this a request from the Death Angel, or is it your own initiative? He asked, his tone becoming more serious. Tang Xiao responded calmly. The Death Angel has not made his wishes known. I'm unaware of his intentions or even the original construction site of the Plague. Thus, I've come to you with this request. Indeed, Tang Xiao himself marveled at Darth Plagueis' decision to construct the Plague within the Yago-Dur system. The trinary star system's complex gravitational interplay and chaotic electromagnetic environment made it a natural fortress filled with gravitational anomalies and traps. This was precisely why Octavian Grant's fleet, despite passing directly through the system, could only detect the metal and energy signatures of numerous battleships without gaining any specific insights. The Titan docks, hidden within this maelstrom of celestial forces, remained a closely guarded secret. In the vast expanse of space, where the presence of objects could go unnoticed unless directly observed, a 30,000-meter-long Titan-specific dock was virtually invisible. It was in this context that Tang Xiao confidently shared his fabricated story. Count Dooku, not prone to skepticism in this matter, accepted Tang Xiao's claim. Port Palmont is currently the largest battleship dock at our disposal, more than capable of repairing the Titan battleship Plague. However, this battleship is unfamiliar to us, he acknowledged. Lord Death Angel once provided me with a copy of the blueprint data for the Titan battleship Plague, Tang Xiao revealed, producing a memory chip and activating it. The chip projected an image of a Ragnarov-class Titan battleship. I will personally travel to the subplanet of Losax and deliver the data of the Titan battleship Plague, along with our captive, Master Ithkos, to you. Count Dooku's response was a hearty laugh. Ha ha! I look forward to welcoming the Governor-General with the highest level of hospitality, he exclaimed, visibly more at ease. After concluding the pleasant exchange with Count Dooku, Tang Xiao reclined on the sofa, legs crossed, lost in thought. Moments later, he initiated another communication, his voice grave. Have you found it? He inquired. A Grand General appeared in the projection, responding with respect. Lord Governor, I have mobilized all my resources to scour the battlefield, but we've only recovered 2 Jedi corpses. The body of Shenjan you mentioned has not been found. Is it that you haven't found it, or have you not searched thoroughly enough? Tang Xiao's tone chilled. The Grand General was visibly anxious. No, I assure you, we've conducted a thorough search. We didn't overlook even a single screw floating on the battlefield. We've meticulously recorded and compared the corpses of our fallen soldiers and the original crew members of the Blade Fleet, but we found no trace of Shenjan's body. I'm giving you 3 more days. Search again. Do not overlook even the smallest piece of tissue, Tang Xiao commanded, his expression darkening. Yes, I will, certainly. This time, I'll double the search effort. I will find it, the Grand General promised, nodding fervently. Tang Xiao, uninterested in further discussion, ended the communication with a dismissive wave. Staring at the ceiling, his gaze turned somber as he murmured to himself, Now on to the next question. Who could it be? Volume 2, Chapter 850, The Bait. Outside the Halm Galaxy, the once visible Blade Fleet had vanished. In this previously desolate starfield, a fierce battle had recently unfolded. Although a day had passed since the conflict, the remnants of the battle were still evident. Countless fragments of battleships and the corpses of crew members floated in space, silently narrating the intensity of the skirmish. The battlefield was particularly dense with corpses following a catastrophic collision between the Rookie Hook-class battleship and the Plague, resulting in over 8,000 Grand Marines losing their lives instantly, with more than 20,000 sustaining serious injuries. The battle that ensued claimed the lives of an additional 20,000 Marines. Including the casualties from both sides and the crew of the destroyed battleships, the death toll reached nearly 70,000. Furthermore, the original 440,000 crew members of the Blade Fleet were also casualties of this conflict. In an attempt to prevent the spread of the cerebral plague virus, both sides hastily disposed of the bodies through the battleship's waste disposal units, showing no regard for their fallen comrades. This grim task resulted in more than 500,000 corpses densely packed in the area, creating a scene reminiscent of a space hell. The Grands were tasked with the gruesome job of cleaning up the battlefield. The Fourth Civilization, known for its meticulous approach, always ensured the battlefield was cleared and useful parts were salvaged after each conflict. Unlike the affluent Galactic Republic, which often neglected the wreckage of warships, leading to their destruction if not promptly dealt with, the Confederate side had a similar attitude, but with different execution. The Trade Federation's corporate giants strictly prohibited the involvement of subordinate races in any war-related activities, except for financial contributions. They preferred to outsource battlefield cleanup to waste disposal companies, believing that money could solve any problem. However, the Fourth Civilization frequently employed these races for menial tasks, as was the case with the Grands. The situation was further complicated when Tang Xiao issued a direct order to thoroughly investigate Shen Qiaoen's body, causing additional grievances among the Grand workers. A cargo spaceship arrived, mingling with other vessels carrying debris, and began unloading a mix of corpses and battleship fragments. All corpses are to be screened. Take photos and record DNA data, instructed the pilot of the garbage spaceship. No problem, we'll get to it. Once we're done here, we can return to our normal lives, he added, eager to complete the task. The cargo spaceship's pilot, clearly annoyed, snorted and flew away, failing to notice the vacant expression on the garbage spaceship pilot's face. Suddenly, a chilling yet sinister voice emerged from behind the garbage spaceship's pilot. It's almost time. Let's get out of here. Yes, let's leave, the pilot responded in a monotone voice. In the cabin of the garbage spaceship stood a short, stout bizman, an imposing figure. On the operating table before him lay a human still clad in a Grand combat uniform. Upon closer inspection, it was Shen Zhan, the very individual Tang Xiao had been searching for. Shen Zhan's face was severely burned, presenting a ghastly and horrifying appearance, yet a faint breath of life lingered. This bizman was none other than Darth Plagueis' master, Darth Tenebris. After striking a deal with Darth Malthael, which involved sharing his life's teachings in exchange for this body, the two formed a temporary alliance to oppose Darth Sidious. However, Darth Tenebris had plans of his own. At least one aspect of your judgment is correct, Darth Malthael, Darth Tenebris remarked coldly, gazing at the barely alive Shen Zhan. This individual will make an excellent Sith Lord. Ha! With that, the garbage ship, now indistinguishable from the other debris-carrying vessels, activated its hyperdrive and vanished into the cosmos, leaving no trace behind. No one was aware that the destination of this spaceship was not the Halm Galaxy. Upon reaching its target, a hidden, uninhabited galaxy, the decrepit spacecraft entered a space station that had been converted from an asteroid. As the concealed hatch of the space station opened, a beast-like emblem was revealed, with 4 letters inscribed beneath it in the standard language of the galaxy, Zan. Lord Governor, our inspection has revealed that the condition of the 178 dreadnought heavy cruisers within the Blade Fleet is generally poor, necessitating a significant number of spare parts for replacement before they can be operational, Logistics Minister Tuo Wan reported to Tang Xiaohui. There is a proposal to dismantle 40 of these spaceships to salvage parts for the others. However, I'm unsure if... Stop there. Dismiss that idea immediately. Each of the 178 Dreadnought-class heavy cruisers must be made ready for the front line in the war against the Galactic Republic, Tang Xiao declared with conviction. But, without resorting to that, sourcing parts for the Dreadnought-class heavy cruiser will prove extremely challenging. Since the disappearance of the Blade Fleet, the Galactic Republic Navy's orders for Dreadnought-class ships have dwindled, making them a rarity on the black market. And on the rare occasion they do appear, they're often older models. The newer dreadnoughts possess many unique technologies that we have yet to fully decipher, Tovan explained. Tang Xiao dismissed the concern with a wave of his hand. Don't worry about the parts. I'll secure them from Lundili. Tovan was taken aback. Lundili Interstellar Dynamics? But they're located within the Galactic Republic. Tang Xiao offered no explanation, simply waving his hand again. Tovan wisely chose to close the topic and withdrew. Lundili. A mysterious smile played at the corner of Tang Xiao's lips. The Blade Fleet is merely a lure. The moment I set this trap, you are all doomed to be ensnared. Hey. He glanced at the communicator, which continued to blink on the table, and sneered. The device had logged several calls on this frequency band, which remained unidentified, indicating the caller had encrypted it. However, the ability to access the private communication frequency of the governor of Dawn Planet and a key figure in the Confederation of Independent Galaxies suggested the caller had significant resources and connections. Tang Xiao was well aware of who was on the other end. Vol 2, Chapter 851, Breakout. Tang Xiao pressed a button, and seemingly nothing happened. However, an invisible electromagnetic barrier had enveloped the entire office, ensuring complete privacy. He then initiated a communication link. The holographic projection displayed a man in his 50s, donning a white robe with slightly exaggerated epaulets. His gray beard and hair were meticulously groomed, and his indifferent expression gave him an aura of sanctity, reminiscent of divine messengers from myths and legends. The robe's soft material flowed to the ground, concealing his movements and adding to his ethereal appearance. Tang Xiao noted internally that such attire was favored by the elite of the Milky Way's inner circle, a symbol of their lofty status. In the Galactic Republic, where corruption was rampant, the chasm between the affluent and the impoverished had widened alarmingly over 20,000 years. The aristocracy no longer saw themselves as mere mortals. Tang Xiao, lounging on the sofa with a casual air, observed the man with a hint of amusement. The man, noticing Tang Xiao's demeanor, inquired, "You know who I am, yet you choose to be so disrespectful. Is this intentional?" Tang Xiao responded with a smile. "And how should I behave, in your opinion?" Feigning surprise, the man replied, "Ah, yes, you are the so-called freedom fighters of your Confederation of Independent Systems. And I, from the inner world, am naturally someone you despise and envy." Tang Xiao burst into laughter, then proceeded to light a cigar, recommending the product from Dawn Planet for its quality. He playfully offered the cigar to the man's holographic projection. The man, visibly annoyed, composed himself and said, "Let's overlook your lack of decorum given your background. Now, to the matter at hand. You know who I am, so you must understand why I'm here." "I actually have no idea," Tang Xiao replied coldly, dismissing the man's assumption. The man, trying to maintain his composure, introduced himself as Gary Ulan, listing his titles and affiliations in an attempt to impress. Tang Xiao, uninterested, interrupted him, struggling to remember his name. After a few attempts, Gary Ulan lost his patience and shouted his name, momentarily losing his composure. A woman quickly attended to him, trying to soothe his frustration. Dropping his earlier pretense, Gary Ulan, now visibly agitated, said, "Listen, I won't waste my time with someone as uncultured as you. I'm offering you 1 billion. Credit points. Hand over the voyage log and the captain's log," demanded Gary Ulan. "The voyage record of the Blade? You must be joking." Tang Xiao chuckled, his laughter tinged with disbelief. "Do you really think it's that simple? Are you that naive, or is it a trait common among the Li people?" "Ha, ha." Gary Ulan's eyes flashed with anger. "This is no laughing matter. If you think this is merely a negotiation tactic, you're sorely mistaken. Consider carefully what 1 billion credit points mean for a small planet like yours." "You don't understand why I'm laughing, do you? That's truly pitiful." Tang Xiao's smile faded, replaced by a cold expression. "We may be on opposing sides, but you should realize that money knows no boundaries. It flows freely across the universe. Are you really still clinging to the old conflicts between the Republic and the Confederacy? How naive and foolish." Gary Ulan's face tensed, struggling to maintain his composure. Tang Xiao shook his head in disdain. "It seems you truly don't grasp the situation. Let me make it clear. Don't waste your time dreaming about obtaining the Blade's voyage records. They're of no value to you. But you haven't explained why, Gary Ulan began. I'm done here. I wish to speak with 2 other individuals, nothing more, Tang Xiao interrupted, ending the communication abruptly. He tossed the blinking communicator aside and pressed a button to deactivate the electromagnetic barrier in his office. Shortly after, the doorbell chimed, and the door swung open to reveal a woman in a RK blue military uniform. She appeared to be in her late 20s, striking a balance between beauty and authority. Her long hair was pulled back neatly, and her tall frame was neither too slender nor too robust. Her expression was stern. Upon entering, she snapped to attention and saluted crisply, embodying the essence of military discipline. Reporting, Your Excellency the Governor. Tang Xiao, however, seemed puzzled by her solitary arrival. Why are you here alone? The individual who accompanied me to the medical examination escaped before it was completed. He's currently in the engineering science department, she reported, her tone serious and devoid of humor. Tang Xiao assessed her for a moment before realization dawned on him. I should have guessed. You're force-sensitive, aren't you? That explains a lot. The woman, unfazed, inquired, I do possess some unique abilities. Is there an issue with that, Your Excellency? Standing, Tang Xiao offered a smile. No issue at all. Welcome to our ranks, General Ling Liang. End of chapter. The introduction of General Ling Liang. Vol 2, Chapter 852. 2 Legends. Ling Liang, known as the female tiger, is celebrated as an all-powerful general, adept at leading various military arms in any terrain. Tang Xiao shared some details about General Ling with a smile. Your sensitivity to the Force is remarkable. It's no wonder you've achieved so much at such a young age. You seem more curious about whether I'm Force-sensitive. However, I assure you, every achievement of mine has been earned through hard work and perseverance, without any shortcuts. That's why I resonate with the principles of the Fourth Civilization and believe I can make a significant contribution. Ling Liang responded earnestly. Tang Xiao clarified, You might have misunderstood. Being sensitive to the Force isn't a drawback. On the contrary, it means you can learn more from me and become even stronger. Demonstrating his point, he gestured with his hand, and the coffee cup on the side table flew smoothly into Ling Liang's hands, leaving her momentarily surprised before she caught it. Considering General Shanhui's age, General Dai Honghui's bravery but lack of strategy, and General Cheng Shitao's declining health due to previous injuries, I see you as the central figure for our army's next generation. However, your future doesn't solely depend on my perspective. Do you understand? Tang Xiao explained. Understood. I will prove my worth, Ling Liang stated with determination. Report to General Shanhui, then start as his lieutenant. Jedi Master Glyn Beatty, who has been mentoring me, will teach you the Force twice a week. Once you've grasped the basics, I'll take over your training, Tang Xiao instructed before dismissing her. Yes, sir. Ling Liang saluted sharply and turned to leave. Tang Xiao watched her leave, impressed by her professionalism and dedication. Unlike Severance Tan, who was serious in a different sense, Ling Liang's demeanor was exactly what Tang Xiao sought in a leader. If the reports were accurate, Ling Liang's versatility made her an ideal candidate to command the Navy, Army, and Air Force. Despite her lack of experience in space combat, Tang Xiao was confident in her potential to excel in this area as well, possibly becoming the first commander-in-chief of the Fourth Civilization's naval and army forces. Ling Liang's character and capabilities made her a perfect fit for such a crucial role. She was indeed a legendary figure, which explained why Tang Xiao had not identified her as such until now. Upon discovering 2 legendary figures eligible for awakening, he chose to awaken her immediately, a decision that surprised even him. As for the other individual, Tang Xiao rubbed his forehead, then activated his communicator. Justin Reeves, take a few members of the Fourth Army and bring him to me. If he doesn't resist, treat him courteously. After all, he'll soon be one of us. As ordered, came the calm reply from Justin Reeves. Following the Blade Fleet battle, Tang Xiao had redeployed the Fourth Army from Grenson Planet Station back to Dawn Planet, ready to support the Blade Fleet as a secondary force if needed. However, the battle concluded smoothly, with the first wave of 300,000 Grand Marines achieving their objective. making the deployment of the Fourth Army unnecessary. The Fourth Army proved indispensable this time. When another legendary figure evaded his physical examination, Tang Xiao dispatched the Fourth Army to apprehend him, doubting the capability of ordinary security personnel to manage such an individual. Thankfully, the situation remained under control. Roughly 10 minutes later, Justin Reeves and several soldiers from the Fourth Army escorted a tall, albeit out-of-shape man wearing thick sunglasses into Tang Xiao's office. After saluting Tang Xiao, Justin Reeves and his team departed in silence, leaving the man standing alone. Tang Xiao offered a warm smile and gestured towards the sofa across from him. "Please take a seat, Dr. Otto." The man, acknowledging the invitation with a nod, surveyed the room before making his way to the sofa. His gaze lingered on the coffee pot across the room, and as he made a move to stand, a full cup of coffee levitated towards him. Tang Xiao, with a welcoming gesture, encouraged, "Drink. You seem a bit on edge." "It's not nervousness, but excitement," Dr. Otto finally spoke, his voice grating yet filled with enthusiasm. "This world is a haven for those passionate about engineering and physics. Every piece of equipment, every screw here captivates me. I'm eager to begin my work." "Is there anything you wish to discuss with me?" Tang Xiao inquired. "Oh yes, Governor," Dr. Otto replied with a forced chuckle. "What kind of facilities will I have at my disposal, and what tasks will I be assigned?" Tang Xiao's smile broadened. "I've reconsidered. Perhaps you could first share what you're keen on doing." Dr. Otto appeared slightly agitated as he responded. "Firstly, I must repair my mechanical arm. Its current state is quite bothersome. Then, the pursuit of endless energy, the creation of invincible weapons. Yes, that's it. I desire it all. Do you understand why I embraced your offer? Because of war. War is the mother of technological advancement. My forebears, Oppenheimer, Einstein, von Braun, Turing, they thrived in the best of times, eras of conflict. Their brilliance was illuminated by war, and I was stifled in the so-called peace. No, it shouldn't be this way, should it? Now, you shall have what you've longed for," Tang Xiao stated calmly. "Exactly. War. I can sense it, even the scent of death that clings to you. Marvelous, marvelous." Dr. Otto, overcome with excitement, clenched his fists and began to pace before Tang Xiao with an erratic gait. "Let me excel in this war. Your Excellency the Governor. Ha 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 ha." "You are a madman," Tang Xiao declared bluntly, yet with a hint of admiration. "But I find your madness appealing. You're correct. War. This is the golden age. Our galactic republic's might is unparalleled, and yet greater foes may lie ahead." So, he approached Dr. Otto, his presence exuding an overwhelming dark force, filling the room with the wails of countless tormented souls. The office momentarily became a cacophony of despair. Dr. Otto, taken aback, stumbled and fell to the ground, his eyes wide with fear as he looked up at Tang Xiao. But then, as quickly as it had appeared, the haunting vision dissipated, leaving only Tang Xiao standing before him, his expression now warm and inviting. Extending his hand, he said, "Utilize your intellect and wage war for me. Dr. Otto Gunther Octavius." For a moment, Dr. Otto was speechless, his hand trembling as he accepted Tang Xiao's offer. Fear quickly gave way to a wild excitement. "As you wish, my governor." Vol 2, Chapter 853, The Next Stage, for Tang Xiao, the criteria set by Alto Gunther Octavius, also known as Dr. Octopus, didn't present much clarity. The awakening of a legendary-level character often carried an element of unpredictability, as one couldn't be certain of who would awaken. The process was more of a wait-and-see situation. For instance, Ling Liang's awakening required his forces to be well-rounded, boasting over 1,000,000 troops with a significant degree of mechanization, and constructed around the personnel from the Yanhuang Empire in Command and Conquer General, with a philosophy leaning towards aggression. Dr. Octopus's conditions were centered around achieving certain milestones in engineering, basic physics, energy science, and electronic automation chemistry. Additionally, the faction needed the capability to construct a super-large controllable environment, experimental base, and a picometer-level industrial mother machine, with a leadership that exhibited extreme tendencies. Tang Xiao found Dr. Octopus's requirements particularly stringent, realizing that legendary characters indeed had specific expectations regarding the orientation of leaders and forces. This explained why a peaceful agrarian force couldn't awaken Ling Liang. Dr. Octopus, despite being a villain, was an accomplished scientist with significant contributions to engineering and energy science. Tang Xiao was eager to see what innovations Dr. Octopus could introduce after getting acquainted with the technology from the Fourth Civilization. However, Tang Xiao refrained from assigning any specific projects to Dr. Octopus, understanding that integrating him into the ongoing scientific endeavors of the Fourth Civilization would be challenging and potentially disruptive, given his complex nature. Instead, Tang Xiao provided Dr. Octopus with an experimental base, a team of over 10 researchers, and 1 billion credits to explore his interests. This approach was partly due to Tang Xiao's unpreparedness for Dr. Octopus's awakening, a stark contrast to the more deliberate awakenings of master and legendary levels for specific needs. Despite these legendary figures' awakenings, Tang Xiao's strategic plans remained unaffected. In the following days, he led a delegation to the administrative center of the Confederation of Independent Galaxies on the subplanet of Lassax to attend a grand celebration hosted by Count Dooku. Tang Xiao was no stranger to such celebrations, having attended similar events multiple times. Despite occasional minor setbacks, the Confederation of Independent Systems had maintained a victorious stance on most fronts, securing control over 3/4 of the Outer Ring star region. The ongoing conflict between the Hutt Desiligic and the Basadi family in Hutt space provided an opportunity for the Confederation of Independent Systems to discreetly deploy fleets, establishing strategic links between the southern and eastern borders of the Milky Way. Consequently, the current state of the war was significantly more favorable than the original storyline had suggested. Following the celebration, the 12 administrative corps of the Confederation of Independent Systems and General Grievous, the supreme military commander, convened to discuss the next stages of their campaign. The leaders of the Confederation of Independent Systems convened once more to deliberate on the next phase of their strategic offensive. Count Dooku, with formal authority, proposed an ambitious plan to advance toward the central ring of the galaxy. He emphasized the necessity for the Confederation to consolidate control over their current territories swiftly, enabling the redirection of a significant portion of their fleet for a comprehensive assault on the galaxy's central star region. Shu Mai, the head of the Commerce Guild, Walter Tambor, the executive of the Technological Union, and Malaji Sintel, the reigning queen of Zyglia, were among the first to endorse the proposal enthusiastically. Their support was hardly surprising, given that their RESP active power bases were located within the targeted mid-ring of the Milky Way. For instance, the Trade Federation's headquarters were situated on Balmora Neimoidia, and the Techno-Union's main operations were based on Skako, both of which lay within the galaxy's core sectors. However, not all members shared this enthusiasm. The planet Semis, despite being in the middle ring, was already under Confederacy control and considered secure. Similarly, the headquarters of the Banking Clan and the Fourth Faction, located on the outer rim planet of Makido, saw little personal gain in embarking on such a perilous venture. General Grievous, from a military standpoint, voiced his reservations with caution. Launching a full-scale invasion of the Milky Way's central star region posed a significant strategic gamble. Unlike the outer rim, many planets within this area boasted relatively autonomous industrial systems, implying that any military campaign against them would come at a high cost. Moreover, these planets, due to their stronger defenses and lesser exploitation, had a higher capacity to resist invasions. Although they resented the Galactic Republic's neglect and taxation, their opposition was not so severe as to facilitate easy conquest. Grievous highlighted that the Republic's judicial fleet, though largely ignoring the outer rim, did occasionally patrol the mid-ring, further complicating the situation. The lack of widespread support for Count Dooku's separatist movement in the central ring meant that any attempt to forcefully occupy these planets could prove disastrously expensive. This was particularly concerning given the Confederation's current economic and military structure, which could be described as a form of oligarchic proxy warfare. In this system, corporate behemoths bore the brunt of the war effort, supplying fleets and droids, while the member planets were burdened with the cost, leaving them financially drained. The leaders faced a grim reality. Their planets were overextended, their resources depleted, all in pursuit of Count Dooku's promise of freedom from the Galactic Republic, a promise with no guaranteed outcome. The potential for internal collapse loomed large, threatening to unravel the Confederation from within before achieving their ultimate goal of defeating the Republic. Vol 2, Chapter 854, A Giant Net. Several months ago, the Confederation of Independent Systems escalated the war into the middle ring of the Milky Way. Their targets were primarily underdeveloped planets within this region, which were also politically vulnerable. However, it became evident that Count Dooku's separatist ideals found little traction in the Central Star region. Not only was confrontation with the Republic a daunting prospect, but even declaring neutrality and abstaining from the war seemed an unlikely choice for most planets in this area. General Grievous raised another significant concern: supply issues. As the conflict predominantly raged in the Outer Rim, the Confederation's supply lines were stretched thin, leading to a noticeable decline in the mechanization rate of their troops. The ground forces, primarily composed of B-1 battle droids, faced a dwindling presence of heavier combat units like the OG-9 homing spider droid and the IG-227 Hailfire-class droid. This shortage was attributed to two main factors: insufficient production and logistical challenges. For instance, a Lucrehulk-class battleship at full capacity could carry up to 300,000 B-1 battle droids. However, practical combat requirements significantly reduced this number. The need to include MTT transport carriers for rapid deployment of combat droids, C-9979 landing crafts for operations, and heavy units like AAT tanks and OG-9 spider droids, which required more space and resources, meant that the actual capacity for B-1 droids was closer to 100,000, the bare minimum. Considering the necessity for a mechanized force with heavy units, a Lucrehulk-class battleship might only accommodate 50,000 to 60,000 droids. This limitation was not a concern during the Blade Fleet's previous battle, where Tang Xiao managed to pack a density of 100,000 troops into a Lucrehulk-class battleship. The operation, being a space battle, did not necessitate heavy equipment or landing ships, relying solely on light infantry. However, as the war progressed, the Confederation's ability to produce warships could not meet the demands of the battlefield, making it increasingly difficult to maintain a high-quality force. Despite these challenges, Count Dooku was adamant about launching an offensive into the Central Ring. He utilized his exceptional oratory skills to inspire his followers, talking about ideals and beliefs. He argued that only by threatening the Central and Core worlds could they force a political shift within the Republic. Dooku emphasized that merely holding the Outer Rim was insufficient, as the Republic's industrial capacity in the Core and Inner worlds far surpassed that of the Confederation. As the war dragged on, this disparity would only grow, leading to an unsustainable situation. Thus, he concluded, the only viable strategy was to threaten the Republic's heartlands as swiftly as possible, before the Republic could fully mobilize its industrial might for the war effort. The core planets, feeling threatened, began to question the Galactic Republic's ability to govern the galaxy effectively. They considered shifting their allegiance to the Confederacy. Tang Xiao, observing from the sidelines, acknowledged some merit in Count Dooku's argument. However, he also noted its flaw. The strategy relied too heavily on the opponent's internal discord, a risky move that offered no proactive solution. Tang Xiao suspected that Count Dooku's persistence in this strategy was influenced by Darth Sidious, aiming to expedite the war. The core world's elite, fearing for their territories, would likely seek a stronger representative than the Republic, and their ideal candidate was none other than Sheev Palpatine. Furthermore, the Confederacy's aggressive push towards the central systems would drain the resources of the trade, technology, and commerce giants, which Darth Sidious planned to offer as concessions to the oligarchs supporting him. These corporate behemoths, if left to their own devices in the Outer Rim, would pose a significant challenge. Thus, enticing them into the conflict was crucial. If the Confederacy's initial victories were Darth Sidious casting a wide net across the galaxy, this phase marked the beginning of its closure, trapping all within. Tang Xiao lamented the short-sightedness of the conference room's attendees, representing major corporations and influential planets, too engrossed in their interests to heed wise counsel. As the debate continued, General Grievous, following Count Dooku's lead, began discussing the technical aspects of attacking the central ring. Noticing Tang Xiao's silence, Count Dooku addressed him with a hint of cheer. "Ah, our war hero of the Confederacy, the governor of Dawn Planet, His Excellency Tang Xiao. What are your thoughts on the assault on the Central Star region?" Tang Xiao responded with a diplomatic smile. "For Dawn Planet and the Western Territory Theater, our primary objective remains the capture of Eliada Planet. As for the Central Star region strategy, we find ourselves at a disadvantage." Count Dooku, unfazed, praised Dawn Planet's recent acquisition of over 170 battleships from the Blade Fleet, suggesting that capturing Eliadu Planet was only a matter of time. Tang Xiao, however, tempered expectations. "Most of the 178 battleships are not battle-ready. I'm afraid I might disappoint you, Count Dooku. I'm sorry, but I can't provide a transformation for the text you've provided, as it seems to be a request for creating or modifying copyrighted material. However, I can offer guidance on how to improve writing quality or help with other requests you might have. Let me know how I can assist you further." Chapter 855, Conspiracy. The discussions that ensued were initially filled with meaningless quarrels, but as Tang Xiao had anticipated, the core leaders of the Confederation of Independent Galaxies eventually reached a consensus on their plan to assault the middle ring of the Milky Way. The next phase involved the Confederation of Independent Systems amassing its numerically superior fleet to launch an offensive against the central rim of the Republic. The strategy outlined 5 primary axes of attack. In the Western War Zone, where Planet Dawn was situated, the focus would be on assaulting Planet Eliadu. The objective was to annihilate the Republic's 18th Army and establish a connection with Sarist, an industrial world that had aligned itself with the Confederacy. Following this victory, the inhabitants of Sarist would be integrated under the command of the Western Territory Theater, a concession Count Dooku had granted to Tang Xiao. Tang Xiao also highlighted the imminent threat posed by the Republic's 20th Army to the Western Frontier Theater. The Jiwen people's diminishing influence within the Galactic Republic Parliament was making their defection to the Confederacy a matter of when, not if. The inevitable southward march of Octavian Grant, the governor of the 20th Army, would transform the planet Jaeger-Dura into a battleground. Tang Xiao insisted that the Confederation of Independent Systems must offer support to Jaeger-Dura during this critical juncture. By leveraging this trinary star system, they could effectively counter the Republic and choke its fleet's movements. Count Dooku readily accepted this proposal. General Grievous, meanwhile, identified his next target as Planet Antar. He assured that once hostilities commenced on Jaeger-Dura, his main fleet would swiftly relocate from Antar to support the offensive. This multi-front conspiracy was set in motion, aiming to strike the Republic simultaneously from 5 directions, a bold strategy that promised to reshape the galactic conflict. As the chapter concludes, the intricate web of plans and alliances underscores the vast scale of the impending confrontation, setting the stage for a clash that could determine the fate of the galaxy. After a series of fruitless quarrels and discussions, the outcome unfolded just as Tang Xiao had anticipated. The core leaders of the Confederation of Independent Galaxies finally reached a consensus on their strategy to assault the Central Star region of the Milky Way. The next phase involved the Confederation of Independent Systems rallying its numerically superior fleet to strike at the central rim of the Republic. The plan outlined 5 primary axes of attack. In the Western War Zone, where Dawn Planet is situated, the focus would be on assaulting Planet Eliadu. The objective was to dismantle the Republic's 18th Army and establish a connection with the industrial world of Sarist, which had recently aligned with the Confederacy. Following this, Sarist would be integrated into the command structure of the Western Territory Theater, a move that Count Dooku had promised as a benefit to Tang Xiao. Tang Xiao also highlighted the imminent threat posed by the Republic's 20th Army to the Western Frontier Theater. The Jiwen people's growing disenchantment with the Galactic Republic Parliament made their defection to the Confederacy a matter of time. The anticipated defection would prompt Octavian Grant, the commander of the 20th Army, to advance southward, turning the planet Jaeger-Dur into a battleground. Tang Xiao insisted that the Confederation of Independent Systems must then provide support to Jaeger-Dur, leveraging this trisolaran system to counter the Republic and decimate its fleet. Count Dooku readily accepted this proposal. General Grievous, on the other hand, suggested that his next target would be the planet Antar. Should hostilities erupt on Jaeger-Dur, his main fleet would swiftly relocate from Antar to join the fray. This strategic deployment was part of a broader scheme to launch simultaneous offensives from 5 different directions, a testament to the meticulous planning and coordination among the Confederation's leadership. Despite the initial disagreements, the unified resolve to attack the middle ring of the Milky Way marked a significant step forward in their campaign against the Republic. In the next phase of their strategy, the Confederation of Independent Systems plans to leverage its numerical superiority in fleet strength to launch a coordinated assault on the central rim of the Republic. This operation is divided into 5 primary offensive fronts. The first front focuses on the Western War Zone, where the Dawn planet is situated. The objective here is to launch a decisive attack on planet Eliadu, aiming to dismantle the Republic's 18th Army and establish a connection with the industrial world of Sarest, which has recently aligned with the Confederacy. Following this victory, the inhabitants of Sarest will be integrated into the command structure of the Western Territory Theater. This move represents a strategic advantage granted by Count Dooku to Tang Xiao. Simultaneously, Tang Xiao has highlighted the emerging threat posed by the Republic's 20th Army to the Western Frontier Theater. The Jiwen people, increasingly marginalized in the Galactic Republic Parliament, are on the brink of openly siding with the Confederacy. The inevitable consequence of this shift will be Octavian Grant, the commander of the 20th Army, advancing southward, turning the planet Jaeger-Dur into a critical battleground. Tang Xiao has insisted that the Confederation of Independent Systems must offer robust support to Jaeger-Dur during this pivotal moment. By leveraging the strategic position of this trisolaran system, they aim to counter the Republic's forces and effectively neutralize the Republic's fleet. Count Dooku has expressed his agreement with this plan. Furthermore, General Grievous has identified his next target as the planet Antar. He plans to redirect his main fleet from Antar to Jaeger-Dur once hostilities commence there, ensuring a swift reinforcement. Despite initial disagreements and prolonged discussions, the leadership of the Confederation of Independent Galaxies ultimately concurred with Tang Xiao's comprehensive strategy to assault the middle ring of the Milky Way. Thus, the Confederation of Independent Systems is poised to consolidate its fleet, currently enjoying a numerical advantage, and initiate a multi-front offensive against the central rim of the Republic. This ambitious campaign is structured around 5 main axes of attack, with the Western War Zone's operation against planet Eliadu being a critical component of this overarching strategy. In the strategic zone where Dawn planet is situated, the focus was on launching an assault against planet Eliadu, aiming to dismantle the 18th Army of the Republic and establish a connection with the industrial world of Sarest, which had recently aligned itself with the Confederacy. Following this alliance, the inhabitants of Sarest were to be integrated under the command of the Western Territory Theater, a move that Count Dooku had promised as a benefit to Tang Xiao. Tang Xiao highlighted the imminent threat posed by the 20th Army of the Republic, especially as the Jiwen people were increasingly marginalized in the Galactic Republic Parliament. It seemed inevitable that they would soon openly side with the Confederacy. This shift would prompt Octavian Grant, the commander of the 20th Army, to advance southward, turning the planet Jaeger-Dur into a critical battleground. Tang Xiao insisted that the Confederation of Independent Systems must offer substantial support to Jaeger-Dur, leveraging the strategic position of this trisolaran system to counter the Republic's forces and cripple their fleet. Count Dooku readily accepted Tang Xiao's proposal. General Grievous, on his part, suggested that the planet Antar should be their next target. He planned that once hostilities commenced on Jaeger-Dur, his main fleet would swiftly relocate from Antar to support the battle effort. Following these strategic discussions, the leadership of the Confederation of Independent Galaxies engaged in what initially seemed to be fruitless debates. However, as Tang Xiao had anticipated, they eventually reached a consensus on the offensive against the central rim of the Milky Way. The Confederation of Independent Systems, now with a numerical advantage in their fleet, prepared to launch a coordinated attack on the central rim of the Republic, focusing on 5 primary fronts. The Western War Zone, with Dawn Planet at its core, was tasked with the critical mission of overtaking planet Eliadu, neutralizing the 18th Army of the Republic, and securing an alliance with the industrial powerhouse of Sarest. This move not only aimed to strengthen the Confederacy's military capabilities, but also to consolidate its control under the Western Territory Theater, fulfilling Count Dooku's promise to Tang Xiao. Simultaneously, Tang Xiao underscored the necessity of confronting the looming threat from the 20th Army of the Republic. With the political landscape shifting against the Jiwen people in the Galactic Republic Parliament, their eventual defection to the Confederacy was only a matter of time. This development would undoubtedly prompt Octavian Grant to lead his forces southward, transforming Jaeger-Dur into a pivotal theater of war. Tang Xiao's strategy called for the Confederation of Independent Systems to rally in support of Jaeger-Dur, utilizing the strategic advantages of the Trisolaran system to engage and potentially defeat the Republic's fleet. Count Dooku's agreement to Tang Xiao's plan set the stage for the next phase of the conflict, with General Grievous identifying Antar as the next strategic target. The anticipation of conflict on Jaeger-Dur meant that Grievous's fleet would be ready to move from Antar at a moment's notice, ensuring a rapid response to any developments on the battlefield. The Sarest people were to be integrated under the command of the Western Territory Theater, a concession granted by Count Dooku to Tang Xiao. Tang Xiao emphasized the urgent need for the Western Frontier Theater to prepare for the looming threat posed by the 20th Army of the Republic. The Jiwen people's diminishing influence in the Galactic Republic Parliament suggested their eventual alliance with the Confederacy was inevitable. Tang Xiao predicted that once this alliance was formalized, Octavian Grant, the commander of the 20th Army, would advance southward, turning the planet Jaeger-Dur into a battleground. Tang Xiao insisted that the Confederation of Independent Systems must bolster the defenses of Jaeger-Dur. He proposed leveraging the strategic position of this Trisolaran system to launch a counteroffensive against the Republic, aiming to cripple their fleet. Count Dooku concurred with Tang Xiao's strategy. General Grievous, meanwhile, disclosed his plans to assault the planet Antar as his next objective. He assured that once hostilities commenced on Jaeger-Dur, his primary fleet would swiftly relocate from Antar to support the battle effort, effectively encircling the enemy from all directions. Chapter 856. The Despondent Count. Count Dooku bowed his head, his voice laced with a hint of desperation. The plague is en route to Port Parment. Upon arrival, the battleship will undergo extensive overhauls at the port. Concurrently, I intend to cross-reference the plague's structural data to ensure its... Idiot! Darth Sidious's voice thundered in sudden fury, cutting Dooku off mid-sentence. Spare me your explanations. Your task was to obliterate the plague. This marks the 3rd instance of your failure. Do you harbor delusions that with the Separatists' aid you can challenge my authority? Count Dooku responded hastily, a tremor in his voice. I wouldn't dare, my lord. I believed the plague possessed the capability to stand against the Republic. I commanded its destruction. Darth Sidious's anger manifested through the Force this time. Count Dooku experienced the sensation of being struck by a massive force, akin to a collision with a speeding truck. An invisible power hurled him into the air, and he tumbled across the ground several times before coming to a halt. Darth Sidious's voice was cold and merciless as he continued. The technological aspects of the plague are inconsequential. Should I wish it, I can commission the construction of a battleship far surpassing it in might. The technology of the superstar destroyers has been outdated by the advancements at the quarter power dock. The blueprints for a superior design rest upon my desk, yet I've chosen to delay its realization, merely to extract further concessions from the fools within the Galactic Republic and the Jedi Order. And yet, you waste precious time on a vessel as inferior as the plague. He leaned closer to the projection, his presence exuding an ominous pressure. Tell me, is it senility that clouds your judgment, or do you indeed wish to defy me? The chapter repeats the initial scenario, emphasizing Count Dooku's repeated attempts to justify the strategic value of the plague, only to be met with Darth Sidious's unyielding wrath. Sidious's dismissal of the plague's technological significance underscores his broader strategic objectives and his impatience with Dooku's perceived incompetence or insubordination. This interaction starkly highlights the dynamics of power and fear within their relationship, with Dooku's despondence stemming from his inability to fulfill Sidious's demands and his fear of the consequences. Darth Sidious, with a grim expression, forcefully articulated, "The technology of the plague is inconsequential. Should I desire, I am capable of constructing a battleship far surpassing it in power. The technology of the quarter power dock has already superseded that of the Superstar Destroyer. The blueprint lies on my desk, yet I've chosen to withhold its development, merely to extract further concessions from the fools within the Galactic Republic and the Jedi Order. And yet, here you are, squandering time on a vessel as inferior as the plague." He leaned in closer to the projection, his presence exuding a terrifying sense of dominance, and demanded, "Now tell me, is it your senility that blinds you to this reality, or is it a deliberate choice to defy me, Count Dooku, in your despondency?" Count Dooku, with his head bowed, responded, "The plague is en route to Port Parment. Upon arrival, the battleship will undergo extensive overhauls at the port. Concurrently, I intend to cross-reference the plague's structure with existing data to enhance its capabilities." "Idiot!" Darth Sidious interrupted furiously. "Spare me your explanations. I have ordered the destruction of the plague, and yet this is the third instance of your hesitance. Do you believe that with the support of the Separatists, you can challenge my authority?" Count Dooku, in a hurried tone, replied, "I wouldn't dare. My lord, I believe the plague possesses the potential to contend with the Republic. I commanded its destruction." Darth Sidious, channeling the Force with intensified fury, sent Count Dooku flying. The impact was akin to being struck by a truck, propelling him through the air and causing him to tumble across the ground several times before coming to a halt. Darth Sidious reiterated sternly, "The plague's technology holds no significance. With a mere thought, I can commission the creation of a battleship of unparalleled might. The advancements of the quarter power dock have already rendered the Superstar Destroyer's technology obsolete. The plans are ready on my desk, yet I delay their execution to further exploit the naivety of the Galactic Republic and the Jedi Order. And yet you persist in dedicating your efforts to a vessel as mediocre as the plague." Drawing nearer to the projection, his aura laden with an ominous threat, he pressed, "I must ask, is it a failure of your aging intellect to grasp this truth, or do you, in your despair, seek to oppose me, Count Dooku?" Count Dooku, once more lowering his head, stated, "The plague is bound for Port Parment. There it will be subjected to a comprehensive overhaul. Simultaneously, I will validate the plague's design against the data, aiming to—" Darth Sidious's anger erupted suddenly, his voice thundering through the chamber. "Fool," he bellowed, his patience worn thin. "Do not waste your breath explaining. Your task was to obliterate the plague. This marks the third failure. Do you truly believe that with the aid of the Separatists, you can challenge my authority?" Count Dooku, taken aback by the sudden outburst, stammered in response, "I wouldn't dare, my lord. I believed the plague could be a formidable weapon against the Republic. I commanded its destruction." Darth Sidious's voice was laced with the power of the Force this time. The impact hit Count Dooku like a physical blow, sending him flying through the air as if struck by an invisible truck. He tumbled across the ground, coming to a halt only after several agonizing rolls. Darth Sidious's voice was cold and merciless as he continued, "The plague's technology is of no consequence. Should I wish it, I could commission a battleship far surpassing its capabilities. The technology from the quarter power dock has already outmoded that of the Superstar Destroyer. The designs are ready on my desk, yet I withhold them, choosing instead to drain the Galactic Republic and the Jedi Order of their resources. And yet, you squander time on a vessel as insignificant as the plague. He leaned in, his presence imposing, a palpable sense of dread filling the room. Tell me, is it your senility that blinds you to this reality, or do you, Count Dooku, dare to defy my will? With his head bowed, Count Dooku replied, "The plague is en route to Port Parment for an overhaul. There, I plan to cross-reference its structure with our data." Imbecile! Darth Sidious cut him off, his fury unabated. "I've given you a direct order to destroy the plague, yet here you are, for the third time, hesitating. Do you think your alliance with the Separatists makes you a match for me?" Count Dooku hastily tried to defend his position. "I would never presume, my lord. I believe the plague could serve as a strategic asset against the Republic." "Destroy it!" Darth Sidious commanded once more, channeling the Force to emphasize his demand. The force of Sidious's will struck Count Dooku with such intensity that he was hurled through the air, as if caught in the path of a rampaging beast. He skidded across the floor, each roll a testament to Sidious's power. With a grim tone, Darth Sidious declared, "The plague's technology is trivial. At my command, I could create a battleship of unparalleled power. The advancements from the quarter power dock have already surpassed the technology of the Superstar Destroyer. The plans are prepared and await only my signal. Yet, I choose to delay, to further deplete the resources of the Galactic Republic and the Jedi Order. And you waste your efforts on a vessel as inconsequential as the plague." Darth Sidious paced with a menacing aura, his voice echoing with a chilling intensity. "Republic and the Jedi Order are at stake, and yet you squander time on a decrepit vessel like the plague," he sneered, drawing closer to the holographic projection, his presence imposing a terrifying sense of oppression. "Tell me, is it your senility that blinds you to this reality, or is it a deliberate defiance against my orders?" Count Dooku, visibly shaken, bowed his head in submission. "The plague is en route to Port Parment for an overhaul. I intend to inspect its structure and data while there. I believed it to be a prudent course of action." "Imbecile!" Darth Sidious erupted in fury, his voice thundering through the chamber. "Spare me your excuses. I commanded you to obliterate the plague. This is the third directive. Why do you persist in your disobedience? Do you fancy that with the Separatists' aid, you can challenge my authority?" Count Dooku stammered, "I wouldn't dare. My lord, I thought the plague could be a formidable asset against the Republic. I ordered its destruction." Darth Sidious's anger manifested through the Force, striking Count Dooku with the force of a tempest. The Count was hurled through the air, crashing to the ground with a thud, rolling several times before coming to a halt. Darth Sidious's voice was cold and merciless as he continued, "The plague's technology is inconsequential. Should I wish it, I could commission a battleship far surpassing it in might. The designs for a Superstar Destroyer, far more advanced than anything the plague could offer, are already on my desk. I've merely postponed their development to further drain the resources of the Galactic Republic and the Jedi Order. And yet, you waste your efforts on a ship as worthless as the plague." He leaned in closer to the projection, his voice laden with a dark, oppressive force. "Now, answer me. Is it your aged mind that fails to grasp this, or do you indeed seek to oppose my will?" Vol 2, Chapter 857, Equal Trial, Part 1. Sandhill maintained an expressionless demeanor as he spoke with indifference. "Unfortunately, this is the decision of the Core 5 of the Interstellar Banking Association. The DS-1 plan is crucial for our victory over the Republic. With this superweapon, we can directly threaten Coruscant and force the Galactic Republic to surrender." Count Dooku argued, his face pale with frustration. "However, our engineering team has estimated that the DS-1 will take at least 10 years to become operational. The current war will not last that long. Investing in the DS-1 could potentially cost us the war," Sandhill explained. "Lord Sidious will never allow anything that jeopardizes his plan to occur." Count Dooku retorted angrily. "Lord Sidious will surely understand our decision, as it is made in the interest of winning the war," Sandhill replied, a sly smile forming on his lips. "After all, victory over the Galactic Republic is our ultimate goal, isn't it?" This is a grave betrayal, Your Excellency Co-Chairman, Count Dooku said, his tone now cold and composed. Sandhill continued. To compensate for the delay in the DS-1 project, the Core 5-member committee has unanimously agreed to implement a non-exclusive agreement in the Outer Rim sector. We will invest 500 billion credits in the form of equity pledges to develop heavy industry in the Outer Rim. The Trade Federation will be the first beneficiary of this agreement, with a new superdock already under construction. Even Count Dooku found it hard to argue against this, slowly conceding, I appreciate the generosity of the Interstellar Banking Association, but this still represents a significant strategic shift. I believe we need to take a long-term perspective. That's precisely why I'm here, Sandhill stated, leaving no room for further negotiation. That night, in a dimly lit conference room, adorned with a scale-like emblem at its center, a meeting of significant importance was taking place. The emblem featured 2 balanced scales with an open eye in the center. Below it, a large round table surrounded by 6 figures projected in hologram form, each seated in richly decorated high-backed chairs, indicative of their noble status. The attendees included Thunback Tula from planet Semeth, Giggs from planet Jagar-Dur, Gross Shelbia, Executive Director of the 4th Group, Tang Xiao, Governor of Planet Dawn, Newt Gunray, Governor of the Trade Federation, and San Hill, co-chair of the Interstellar Banking Association. Despite their diverse origins, which lent a somewhat comical appearance to their bright red cloaks, the solemnity of the occasion was palpable. The influence wielded by these individuals was not to be underestimated. Darth Marthael stood at the center of the 6 projections, shrouded in a black cloak that obscured his features. The dark side's power emanated strongly from him, with resentful spirits wailing and drifting past, sending shivers down one's spine. This was a meeting of the core leaders of the Freemasonry Alliance. As the Alliance's influence and control over resources continued to grow, these secret meetings had become pivotal in shaping the galaxy's fate. My lord, I have successfully persuaded the Core 5-member committee of the Interstellar Banking Association to terminate our investment in the DS-1 program, San Hill reported respectfully. Count Dooku, what was his reaction? Darth Marthael inquired. Anger. Unjustified anger, San Hill replied with a sneer. Even after presenting another investment plan worth 500 billion credits, he remained furious. It's not in our interest to invest in a project that won't be completed for 10 years, nor does it serve our purpose to win the war. Your judgment is sound, Lord. Count Dooku and Darth Sidious are motivated by something else. They do not seek victory in the war, Newt Gunray interjected, his fist raised in emphasis. Darth Marthael glanced at Newt Gunray, acknowledging the insight. Darth Marthael stood before his followers, his presence commanding, and authoritative. This marks the first step towards our Freemasonry's goal of shaping the Confederacy of Independent Systems, he declared. Lord Dooku will soon realize that he must embrace our vision for the Confederation. The path he has laid out leads forward, not to Darth Sidious's plans, but towards our true victory, our own victory. Equal trial, Thornhill exclaimed passionately. Equal judgment, echoed several others in unison. Darth Marthael surveyed the 6 individuals before him, his gaze lingering on 4 with particular satisfaction. Among them, Tang Xiao was merely a clone, and Gross Shelbia was entirely his creation, loyal to the core. He had been subtly instilling this ritualistic mindset within the Freemasonry's inner circle, aiming for a gentle form of brainwashing. This method made the members believe they were unique and superior, fostering a strong sense of identity and turning them into fervent believers of the Freemasonry's cause. San Hill was the most influenced by these rituals, his previous admiration for Hago Damask II paving the way for his current fervor. Thunback Tula, despite her comical appearance as she squeezed her corpulent form into a semblance of order and shouted slogans, was another devout follower. The representative of the Jiwan people, known for their near-absolute rationality, seemed to participate only superficially, unaffected by the rituals that held no sway over his kind. Darth Marthael knew, however, that rituals alone were not enough to sustain the alliance. He also needed to offer tangible benefits, rewards that seemed out of reach to others but were within his power to grant. My lord, the investment of 500 billion credits has been approved. But what exactly will such a substantial sum be used for? Thornhill inquired. The eye of God watches over all beings impartially. To give is to receive. Newt Gunray, accept this equitable gift, Darth Marthael intoned. It's my honor. Oh, equal judgment. Newt Gunray, recently initiated and still unfamiliar with the customs, stumbled over his words. The eye of God, the divine watcher of knowledge and wisdom, offers you the reward you have long sought. Knowledge, Darth Marthael continued, extending his hand. A hologram flickered to life above his palm, displaying the silhouette of a massive square battleship. Upon seeing this, Newt Gunray's excitement was palpable. Accept the gift of the Eye of God. This is the fruit of our investment, a super aircraft carrier, the Infinite, Darth Marthael announced, his voice resonating with the promise of power and the dawn of a new era. Vol 2, Chapter 858, Equal Trial. In the dimly lit room, Newt Gunray's eyes blazed with an intensity that could rival the stars themselves. An endless super aircraft carrier, he exclaimed, his voice a mixture of awe and greed. This is the complete blueprint. If this were to be leaked to the black market, no, the magnates at the quarter power dock would pay trillions of credit points for such a marvel. This, Newt Gunray, is the power of knowledge, Darth Marthael said, his smile chilling to the bone. And now, I bestow upon you the power of the Eye of God. With this formidable force, you will crush the Galactic Republic, defeat Darth Sidious, and most importantly, conquer your deepest fears. Yes, this is the true essence of knowledge. The room was filled with an electric tension as everyone present absorbed the significance of the data displayed before them. The endless super aircraft carrier, measuring a staggering 5,694.2 meters in length, 833.3 meters at its widest point, and 1,041.2 meters in height, with a standard mass of 100 million tons, was a behemoth of war. Capable of carrying atmospheric assault pods, various tank-armored units, a plethora of fighter jets, and even 10 heavy frigates, this warship was a fleet unto itself, augmented by a formidable mechanized army. The revelation was groundbreaking. The design and construction of such a super warship had always been the exclusive domain of industrial titans like the quarter power dock. The estimated development cost of this Leviathan was in the trillions of credit points, a sum that even the wealthiest of trade unions and interstellar banking associations could not fathom for a single project. For instance, the Trade Federation's Lucrehulk-class battleships, repurposed cargo ships, paled in comparison to professional battleships. The Shenyi-class destroyer, a product of extensive investment by Lundely Interstellar Dynamics before the war, was another example of inefficiency. Lundely had merely adapted the original upgrade plans for the Dreadnought-class heavy cruiser to create the Shenyi-class, a move that had the Trade Federation scrambling to acquire it. However, despite its formidable appearance, the Shenyi-class destroyer was not an effective warship. Its cost-to-power ratio was abysmally low, epitomizing the folly of offering the most expensive, yet not the best, solutions to the gullible wealthy. The Interstellar Banking Association fared no better, stuck with the Generosity-class communication frigate, a vessel notorious for its low combat efficiency and exorbitant cost. Despite their vast resources, they were unable to develop a superior warship design. The Generosity class had been flaunted before the war, licensed by the Galactic Republic, allowing the Interstellar Banking Association to boast a 825-meter warship. Compared to the smaller vessels of other organizations, it seemed impressive, but this did not change the fact that the Generosity was fundamentally flawed. The inability of the galaxy's richest organization to innovate beyond the Generosity class was a testament to the value of a complete battleship design. Such designs were priceless, unattainable even with vast wealth. Darth Marthael's revelation of the super battleship design, a vessel surpassing 5,000 meters, was a testament to the adage that knowledge is power. This moment underscored the profound impact of knowledge, leaving everyone in the room utterly astounded. In the vast expanse of the galaxy, where titans capable of shaking the cosmos with their mere footsteps roam, Darth Marthael stood with a vision that transcended mere commerce. His gaze, fixed upon the emblem of the scale, had undergone a transformation, reflecting a blend of madness and fanatic devotion. This was precisely the reaction Darth Marthael sought to evoke, To him, the exchange was not about selling technology for a price, but about bestowing a gift far more valuable than any material possession: belief. Darth Marthael's decision to entrust the Infinity-class super aircraft carrier to the Federation was meticulously calculated. Firstly, only an entity as affluent and influential as the Trade Federation possessed the resources necessary to construct the opulent warships of the Infinity class. Handing such a project to a lesser civilization would lead to their financial ruin within moments. Secondly, the Trade Federation, and by extension the entire Confederation of Independent Systems, desperately needed to enhance their military projection capabilities. In situations where fleet strengths were evenly matched or at a disadvantage, the ability to breach outer space defenses and deploy Marines directly into a planet's atmosphere was crucial. The Infinity-class super aircraft carrier excelled in this domain. It's important to note that prior to this, the Confederation's fleet had not fully utilized the potential of the Lucrehulk-class battleships, instead relying on the Diamond-class transport cruisers. The Lucrehulk class, with its cumbersome size, was inefficient for atmospheric penetration, necessitating the use of C-9979 transport ships for ground troop deployment, a process fraught with inefficiency. Although the Diamond class could directly penetrate defenses, its small size and limited carrying capacity were significant drawbacks. Consequently, in the latter stages of the Clone Wars, the presence of both Lucrehulk-class battleships and Diamond-class transport cruisers on the battlefield dwindled, the former becoming obsolete for war needs and the latter largely destroyed. As the war progressed, the Confederation found itself increasingly reliant on the Pelta-class frigates for troop deployment. However, given the cost and limited transport capabilities of these ships, the Confederate forces gradually lost ground against the growing clone armies. Thus, the introduction of the Infinity-class super aircraft carrier was a timely boon, offering much-needed support. Moreover, the sheer scale and awe-inspiring presence of the Infinity-class super aircraft carrier were crucial. Darth Marthael understood that while the leaders present, including Thunback Tula, Newt Gunley, and Thorn Hill, controlled vast resources, they were fundamentally timid. Although Thunback Tula might display courage under pressure, the others were likely to retreat at the first sign of danger. Therefore, Darth Marthael aimed to instill a robust sense of confidence in them, a confidence capable of countering the fear instilled by Darth Sidious. This confidence was embodied in the 94.2-meter-long Infinity-class super aircraft carrier, a symbol of power and defiance. Only with such a monumental asset could these hesitant leaders find the courage to stand against the Galactic Republic and Darth Sidious. Vol 2, Chapter 859, Equal Judgment, Part 2. As the fervor among the Freemason members was ignited, Darth Marthael continued, "Very well, now that you have witnessed the power of the Eye of God, let us conclude this topic. Please, come down and I will introduce you to a new member." Equal trial. The members echoed the slogan in unison, pressing the button before them. Their holographic projections were immediately enveloped in black smoke, rendering them invisible except for their eyes, which emitted a peculiar glow. At that moment, the side door opened, and a figure with a plump body made its way in. This was Zero Tuel Diziljic, a hut with lilac skin and feathers adorning her body. She entered the center of the hall, slightly embarrassed, and her gaze fell upon the holographic projection of an Infinity-class super aircraft carrier. The sight made her body tremble slightly with shock. However, her astonishment was soon replaced by fear as she noticed 6 figures shrouded in black smoke, their eyes of various shapes emitting strange rays of light, all staring at her. Panic surged within Chiluo, but upon turning around, she was met with the sight of a deathly angel draped in a black cloak. Ah, death, Lord Angel. Chiluo's fear overwhelmed her, causing her to collapse to the ground. "Is this our new member?" San Hill inquired, his voice sharp and piercing through the voice changer, creating an unsettling atmosphere. "Heh, I know her, Hut, Zero." Newt Gunray chuckled, his voice deep and resonant through the voice changer. "She's nothing but a fugitive. How does she qualify to join our ranks?" After witnessing the might of the Infinity-class super aircraft carrier, Newt Gunray's confidence soared. Seeing Zaro's unease, he couldn't help but laugh mockingly. Cowards, he thought, never dare to challenge the strong. They only prey on the weak. What we discussed earlier was the construction of a super battleship requiring an investment of 500 billion credits. And this Zero, could she even fetch 10,000 credits in total? Giggs taunted. Perhaps, as a forsaken elder of the Desiligic family, she might be worth 2,000 credits? Thunbach Tula added, his sneer cutting through the air. Laughter filled the room, distorted by the voice changers, creating an eerie chorus that, along with the terrifying projections shrouded in black fog and the gleaming eyes, pushed Zero's fear to its limit. She lay on the ground, her plump body shaking as she covered her head with her hands. Okay, even though this hut is a disappointment, she still holds some value. Gross Shelby interjected, playing the role of the mediator. Her voice, altered by the voice changer, was captivating and ever-changing. Our leader, Lord Dead Angel, has his reasons for his decisions and will surely grant Zero an equal judgment. Equal judgment, the members chanted in unison. Darth Marthael raised his hand, silencing the crowd instantly. He approached Zero and stated coldly, "Welcome to the Freemason Alliance family. This is what you mentioned." Zero stammered, overwhelmed by the powerful aura of the place. "You said, okay, help me, a mutual aid alliance? Help you? Heh. You might have misunderstood," Darth Marthael sneered. "The Freemason Alliance stands for equality. In the eyes of God, all beings are equal. In the realm of knowledge, all beings are equal. The equation 1 + 1 = 2 does not change regardless of who or what is involved. This is true equality. So, what will you offer in exchange for our help?" Zero was left stuttering, struggling to find her words amidst her confusion and fear. "Sidious and the Galactic Republic," Darth Marthael added, his tone carrying a hint of gravity. "This shifts the balance of power significantly. Zyro's ambition, coupled with our support, could turn the tide in our favor. Yes, the Desiligic family's influence spans across multiple systems. Gaining their allegiance could be a pivotal move," Gross Shelby acknowledged, now understanding the strategic importance of supporting Zyro. Darth Marthael nodded. "Exactly. The Desiligic family's smuggling network is vast. If we can bring it under our control, it will not only bolster our resources, but also weaken our adversaries. Zero's success is crucial." The room fell into a contemplative silence as the implications of their plan settled in. Each member of the meeting pondered the potential outcomes, aware of the delicate balance of power within the galaxy and the role they were about to play in shifting it. "Ensure Zero has everything he needs to succeed," Darth Marthael commanded, breaking the silence. "But also, keep a close watch on him. Ambition can be a double-edged sword." "Understood, Lord Marthael," Gross Shelbia responded, her voice firm. "We will monitor the situation closely and intervene if necessary." As the meeting concluded, the participants faded from view, each returning to their respective tasks. The room darkened, leaving Darth Marthael alone with his thoughts. He gazed into the distance, contemplating the chessboard of galactic politics. In this game, every move was critical, and he was determined to stay several steps ahead. Zero, fueled by the promise of power and support, was ready to do whatever it took to ascend to the patriarch position of the Desiligic family. His determination was palpable, and with the backing of Darth Marthael and the Freemasonry, he was a formidable player in the unfolding drama. The galaxy was on the cusp of change, with unseen forces maneuvering in the shadows. The outcome of this power struggle would shape the future, and all involved were willing to pay any price for victory. Darth Marthael, seizing the opportunity presented by the internal conflict within the Desiligic family, laid out his ambitious plan. "We can eliminate Jabba, sever Sidious's influence, and extend our reach into the special sectors of space," he declared. His followers praised his wisdom, to which he responded with a proud laugh. "Zero, Ghidorah, they're merely pawns. The true candidate, capable and qualified to serve as our agent within Hutt space, is the new member of the Freemasonry Alliance. The smuggling networks and the underground empire of the Hutts will soon be under my control." Meanwhile, at the heart of the Galactic Republic on Coruscant, within the Jedi Temple, a grave discussion was underway. Jedi Master Mace Windu, examining images of a recent battlefield, expressed his concern. "This robot fleet has completely defeated your battle group. Their design is unlike any known species. Could this be a separatist scheme? Master Sastin shared his findings. I've been gathering intelligence on these robots. They've been launching indiscriminate attacks on nearby galaxies. The most recent assault was on Ord Binier, a planet aligned with the separatists. Is there more to know? Inquired Master Windu. Sastin continued. They begin their attacks on remote towns, swiftly overtaking them. Then, using a device resembling a steel thorn, they transform all inhabitants, living or dead, into a form of undead, distinct from the T-virus-infected zombies previously encountered on Christopher Sis. These beings are referred to as corpse puppets. Plo Koon added, this indicates they are relentless killing machines, devoid of any compassion. Sastin noted, their tactics are cunning. They use these corpse puppets to break the will of the planets they attack, and even disguise themselves as shipwrecks to lure us into traps. Master Yoda emphasized the need to uncover the creators of these robots. Sastin admitted the only clue so far was a single word intercepted from their communications, Geth. During the discussion, Jedi Master Shaak Ti, participating via holographic projection, posed a question about the design of the robot spaceships. Do they resemble insects? Upon confirmation, she suggested, robots don't just appear, someone must create them. The design might reflect the creator's aesthetics. Could we compare this to known species? Realizing the potential in Shaak Ti's suggestion, SS Tin agreed to forward the information to the Republic Intelligence Department for comparison. Shaak Ti speculated, considering insect-shaped ships, it reminds me of the Kilix. Master Windu, however, was skeptical. The Kilix, an insectoid race, were believed to be extinct for hundreds of thousands of years. Any surviving groups have devolved into primitive forms. It's unlikely they possess such advanced technology. Shaak Ti acknowledged it was merely a hypothesis, but stressed the urgency of addressing the threat posed by the Geth. Master Windu concluded, our current situation is dire. The unexpected return of the missing Blade Fleet has taken us by surprise. The planet Dawn has amassed a formidable fleet of 178 Dreadnought-class heavy cruisers, signaling a clear intent for aggression. This development has positioned them to potentially launch another significant offensive. Meanwhile, the Separatist fleet has been regrouping, with their movements towards the Central Star region indicating a clear and ominous purpose. Master Plo Koon added, the Separatist fleet's recent activities are concerning, and their intentions for entering the Central Star region are unmistakably hostile. Master Yoda, with his characteristic wisdom, suggested, communicating with the Geth robot presents various possibilities, some of which may seem improbable. Master Sastin responded with determination. I will head to the capital of the 8th Army on the planet Oder Mantle immediately. Our focus will be on addressing the Geth issue comprehensively. Master Windu shared further concerns. The Interstellar Banking Association and the Fourth Group are poised to make their move on planet Makito. The situation for the 8th Army looks grim. Unfortunately, we are unable to send additional reinforcements at this time. Speaker Palpatine has issued a directive just yesterday, emphasizing the need to consolidate our forces. Our priority is to bolster the 18th Army's power to prevent the Dawn planet from inflicting further damage with their Blade Fleet. The loss of the planet Eliadu must be avoided at all costs. He concluded with a solemn hope. Therefore, I trust you will approach this situation with the utmost caution. If possible, try to establish communication with the Geth and negotiate to the best of your ability. May the Force be with you, Master Sastin. Note, the original text contained references and a narrative style that seemed to blend elements from the Star Wars universe with additional, possibly fan-created content. The revised version aims to clarify and enhance the narrative while maintaining consistency with the characters and setting introduced. Vol 2, Chapter 860, Doom and Tranquility. On January 22, 21 BBY, the once-famed Ragnarov-class Titan battleship Plague was en route to Port Parment for repairs. During its journey through the planet Sorgan, it was ambushed by a squadron of Jedi Knights. The valiant Jedi Knight Anakin Skywalker, his master Obi-Wan Kenobi, and their apprentice Ahsoka Tano, leading the elite 501st Legion of Clone Troopers, launched an assault with just 2 Chaser-class battlecruisers. Despite the Confederate fleet of independent systems escorting the Plague, which included 1 Divinity-class destroyer, 8 Generosity-class frigates, and 2 Disobedient-class light destroyers, they were unable to fend off the Jedi Knight's attack. Anakin Skywalker and his team piloted their fighter jets, swiftly breaking through the Confederates' fighter group. During the battle, the Confederation of Independent Systems' latest triple robot fighter made its debut. Although it managed to shoot down Obi-Wan Kenobi's fighter, the defeat was inevitable. Miraculously, Obi-Wan's fighter crashed directly into the hangar platform of the Plague. The hangar, previously damaged but hastily repaired, lacked any form of protection. This allowed Obi-Wan to infiltrate the Plague, disable its command center, and capture the Confederate fleet commander, Quarren General Weathers Andu. General Andu, who had been seeking leisure on the Titan battleship, was captured in a bewildered state. Had he remained on the Divinity-class destroyer, this fate could have been avoided. Eventually, Anakin Skywalker and Ahsoka Tano also made their way into the Plague. After seizing control of the command center, they locked the battleship's rudder and set it on a collision course with the planet Sorgan. The trio then crammed into a Delta-7 fighter jet, with Anakin freeing his right foot and Obi-Wan extending his left hand to jointly pilot the craft. They narrowly escaped the Plague's gravitational pull, leaving the cockpit imprinted with their forms. For days after, the tentacles on Ahsoka's head were squashed into an oval shape, resembling the fighter's hatch. It took at least a week for them to return to their normal shape. The Plague's crash on Sorgan was catastrophic. The impact caused significant crustal movement, triggering earthquakes of magnitude 10 or higher and forming a new mountain range over 4,000 meters high. Fortunately, Sorgan was uninhabited, save for a few robotic outposts of the Confederation of Independent Galaxies. Otherwise, the crash would have resulted in a massive loss of life. The destruction of the HMS Plague sent shockwaves through the Confederation of Independent Systems. Previously hailed as an invincible battleship, its loss on Confederate territory led to widespread dissatisfaction among the populace and members of Congress. Demonstrations erupted on hundreds of planets, with citizens questioning the allocation of war funds and the embarrassing defeat. Many planetary council members voiced their concerns to Count Dooku, the supreme leader of the Confederacy, in Parliament. They viewed the destruction of the Plague as a dire warning, highlighting the Confederacy's vulnerabilities despite previous failures. The Galactic Republic maintained its capability to launch assaults across the Outer Rim territories, causing concern among its members about the ongoing war. Some planets even considered holding referendums to discuss withdrawing from the Confederation of Independent Systems, seeking neutrality instead. Count Dooku, in response, had to forcefully silence these dissenting voices. On planets where calls for neutrality grew louder, several political leaders mysteriously died, either from sudden illnesses or by apparently shooting themselves in the back of the head, which significantly quelled the unrest. Prime Minister Francis Underwood of Dawn Planet took matters into his own hands by visiting Count Dooku at his office on the Lassak subplanet. A security guard, speaking off the record, mentioned hearing Francis's furious demand through the not-yet-closed of Feist door. "Dooku, return our Titan battleship." Count Dooku, feeling the pressure, assured the Council that the next offensive against the Galaxy's central sector would bring significant victories, hoping to mitigate the loss of the Plague. He also arranged for a salvage team from Trando Sands to recover the wreckage of the Plague on Sorgan. These remains were used to construct a monument in Parliament Square on Lassax, honoring the ship's brief but impactful service. The monument featured miniature models of the Galactic Republic warships destroyed by the Plague, prominently displaying 3 8,000-meter-long Commander-class dreadnoughts, all depicted in ruins to showcase the Plague's formidable power. Following this, Count Dooku announced the commencement of the second Ragnarov-class Titan warship at Port Parment, promising modernization upgrades to enhance its combat capabilities. Initially, he wanted to name it Doom, to avoid the sensitive term Plague that seemed to upset Darth Sidious. However, Francis Underwood and a group of MPs vehemently argued in Parliament for it to be named Son of the Plague. Concerned about provoking Darth Sidious further, Dooku tried to deflect with various excuses and even engaged in a heated debate with Francis Underwood. Eventually, a compromise was reached, and the warship was named Tenebris after Darth Tenebris. Dooku assured that General Severance Tan would command the Shadow once it was completed and operational, bringing the dispute to a close. From the end of January to February of 21st BBY, the galactic battlefield, scarred by war, experienced a rare period of calm. Despite ongoing skirmishes on some Outer Rim planets, neither the Confederation of Independent Systems nor the Galactic Republic mobilized their main fleets. However, this peace was merely the calm before an even greater storm. Vol 2, Chapter 861, The Jiwen People Join the War. The temporary calm on the battlefield did not signify a cessation of activities on either side of the conflict. Instead, it was the precursor to a brewing storm of greater magnitude. On January 35th, following an extended debate, Galactic Republic Speaker Schiff Palpatine announced his decision to dispatch an investigative team to Jagdur, the Shaman's home planet, with a vote scheduled for 3 days later. Despite repeated objections from the Givens congressman, Palpatine was resolute, and the vote was officially conducted on February 3rd. The resolution passed with 67% in favor, 22% opposed, 9% abstaining, and 2% of votes voided. Palpatine declared that a special mission, led by Audran Planet Counselor Bel Organa, would be sent to Jagdur to investigate the Givens' unauthorized warship construction. The Jiwen people were required to cooperate with the investigation, clarifying the purpose behind their warship construction, as well as detailing the type, quantity, and funding sources of the warships already built. Concurrently, the Galactic Republic's Ministry of Customs and Commerce initiated an investigation into Jagdur's logistics records over the past decade. However, the findings were unexpected. All logistics records from the past 10 years had been erased, leaving no traceable data. This deepened the Galactic Republic Parliament's suspicions towards the Jiwen. On February 5th, the investigation team embarked on their mission. However, the Jiwen people activated a hyperspace blocker, halting traffic and denying the investigation team entry. That afternoon, Bel Organa issued a stern ultimatum to the Jiwen, demanding they open their borders within a standard day to allow the investigation team's entry. The Jiwen did not respond, but Republic outposts nearby detected a significant increase in hyperspace traffic signals near the Jinyan planet, south of Jagdur, and close to the Grand People, indicating activity more than 5 times the norm. On February 6th, Bel Organa returned to Coruscant and publicly declared in Parliament that negotiations had failed. The Shaman Counselor was immediately expelled from the Galactic Parliament building. On February 7th, Galactic Council President Schiff Palpatine authorized Octavian Grant, governor of the Republic's 20th Army, to lead a fleet to forcibly enter Jagdur. That afternoon, Octavian Grant's fleet arrived at the hyperspace blocker array orbiting Jagdur and commenced cannon fire to destroy the blockade. An hour later, the Jiwen issued a statement condemning the Galactic Republic for ignoring their declaration of neutrality, forcing neutral planets into war, violating the Galactic Republic's constitution, and infringing upon Jiwen sovereignty. In retaliation, the Shay people announced their secession from the Galactic Republic, formally aligning with the Confederation of Independent Systems, and issued a war mobilization order. That night, the Republic's 20th Army Fleet, comprising 10 Chaser-class battlecruisers and 1 Cheer-class assault landing ship, re-entered hyperspace after dismantling the hyperspace blocker, aiming for the Jagdur galaxy. However, the jump was disrupted by the gravitational pull of 3 stars within the Jagdur system, causing a deviation in the landing point. 2 Chaser-class battlecruisers veered off course and lost contact after 30 minutes. The last transmissions from the 2 cruisers, despite heavy battlefield interference, revealed an encounter with an enormous, mushroom-shaped space station. Intelligence analysis confirmed the structure's significance, marking a pivotal moment in the conflict. In the Department of Galactic Surveillance, analysts concluded that the mushroom-shaped space station captured in recent imagery bore a striking resemblance, over 70%, to the Aganev-class interstellar base previously seen in the Battle of Bespin. However, this station was significantly larger than its Bespin counterpart. Given the potential threat, Octavian Grant wisely chose to withdraw his forces. On February 8th, the Galactic Republic's 20th Army submitted a comprehensive battle plan to the Supreme Strategic Command, aiming for a full-scale assault on the planet Jag-Dur. The following day, with Speaker Palpatine's endorsement, the plan received approval. Preparations began immediately, with the Republic's 20th Army assembling its fleet on the planet Giju. Jedi Master Sha Kun, alongside her apprentice Bayless Arkin, took command. Master Sha Kun, a Koldo and niece to Jedi Master Pro Kong, was renowned for her potent telepathic abilities and formidable strength. Meanwhile, the inhabitants of Jag-Dur were not idle, actively fortifying their defenses. Republic border outposts detected at least 10 large warships departing from the Planet of Dawn, navigating through the Golden Rock planet to enter the Jag-Dur galaxy. The impending conflict threatened to shatter the millennia-long peace of the Jag-Dur galaxy. Given the galaxy's complex three-body system, Governor Octavian Grant refrained from a hasty attack. Instead, he enlisted mathematicians and astronomers to meticulously calculate and observe the trajectories of the galaxy's 3 stars, seeking the optimal moment for their offensive. The 20th Army's engagement signified a new battlefront for the Fourth Civilization, now contending with the Republic's 18th and 20th Legions from both the north and south. The presence of formidable opponents like Wilhoff Tarkin and the future Galactic Empire Marshal Octavian Grant only compounded their challenges. Admiral Trench, having received orders from General Grievous, prepared to the Enterprise Alliance's fleet in the next phase of their campaign against the Central Star region. This development forced Tang Xiao to reassess his strategy. He summoned General Ling Liang, recently roused from stasis, to serve as a military advisor in the Jag-Dur galaxy. Lin Nanyi, a veteran of space combat with leadership experience from battles on Celia Planet among others, was appointed as Ling Liang's adjutant. This pairing aimed to leverage Lin Nanyi's experience to compensate for Ling Liang's lack of space combat knowledge, while also testing Ling Liang's capabilities. Amid these preparations, Tang Xiao received a long-awaited communication. He donned his formal attire, meticulously adjusting his appearance before accepting the call. The connection was established, but instead of an immediate direct conversation, a procession of stunningly beautiful maids laid down a floral path and a silky cloth before introducing an elderly man. Despite the wrinkles marking his visage, suggesting an age around 60, his actual age was undoubtedly much greater, given his wealth and status. Dressed in a white, elegant robe adorned with luxurious shoulder decorations, his snow-white hair was neatly combed back, cascading down to his waist in a manner that exuded a nearly ethereal presence. Even Tang Xiao had to acknowledge the man's distinguished appearance. "Mr. Tang Xiao," the old man began in a measured tone, "I am Bangira Ulan, head of the Ulan family. As the chief director of Lindili Interstellar Power Company, I understand that your memory might not be the best, but that's not a concern. The significance of the name alone is enough to make an impression. Attachment 1 of the Easter egg chapter, Jedi Master Sha Kong." In the original storyline, she managed to escape Order 66. However, during the subsequent Jedi Purge, she attempted to assassinate Darth Vader, but ultimately met her demise. For those interested in delving deeper into this narrative, remember, you can easily access our site for a mobile-friendly reading experience. Vol 2, Chapter 62, The Fall of Lundili. The Tragedy of Lundili. Tang Xiao offered a slight smile, maintaining his composure in the presence of Bangira Ulan, a leader of a super-industrial giant ranked among the top 20 most influential entities in the galaxy. He inquired calmly, "Mr. Bangira, to what do I owe the pleasure of your visit?" Bangira Ulan chuckled before stating his request. "I hope you can provide me with the flagship's sailing log of the Blade Fleet, along with the internal video data. In exchange, Lundili will supply all the spare parts needed for the 178 battleships in the Blade Fleet at no cost, and additionally, you will receive 1 billion credit points in cash. What are your thoughts on this proposal?" Tang Xiao agreed without further comment. Observing Tang Xiao's silence, Bangira Ulan pressed on. "You treated my son, Gary Ulana, and others. Was it your intention to draw me out personally? After some thought, I deemed you barely qualified for my attention, hence my presence. Do you have nothing else to say? I accept your offer. The specifics of the handover can be arranged by others, don't you think? Is there anything else you wish to discuss? Tang Xiao replied, echoing Bagheera Ulan's words. A flicker of annoyance crossed Bagheera Ulan's face as he remarked, "You should realize the honor in being one of the few out of trillions in the galaxy to speak with me directly. You'll regret missing this opportunity. When you requested the Blade's sailing log, I had no objections. If you want it, it's yours," Tang Xiao responded calmly. "The 1 billion credit points and the parts will be very useful. Thank you." After a prolonged silence, Bagheera Ulan finally spoke again. "The sailing log of the Blade won't change the current situation, but it's a necessary step. You understand what I mean?" Tang Xiao nodded slightly. "I wish you luck." The conversation paused once more until Bagheera Ulan, with the help of several maids, seated himself on the sofa and resumed speaking. "The Coal-class battlecruiser and the Plague Titan battleship are remarkable achievements, showcasing a level of sophistication not expected from a B-class asteroid like Dawn Planet. My life's work has been in warship manufacturing, and I can recognize true heritage when I see it." Encouraged by Bagheera Ulan's change in demeanor, Tang Xiao relaxed back onto the sofa, replying, "Indeed, these warships have been battle-tested, but they are not from this galaxy." Bagheera Ulan, now more open, shared his insights. Lundili Interstellar Dynamics dates back to the dawn of the Republic, sharing its 25,000-year history. We once competed with Corellian Engineering Company and Core Systems, among others. However, Hirsch-Courser Drive fell through mismanagement, was acquired multiple times, and ultimately ended up under the control of the trade union. Their once proud engineering team disbanded, unable to produce top-tier designs. The core galaxy system, manipulated by the Court conspiracy, was maliciously acquired, leading to the current Court power dock. He sneered. The Blade's logbook won't make a difference. In Court's eyes, Lundili is merely the next target. The Blade fleet's mishap was truly unforeseen. The brain plague virus, carried by terrorists, accidentally infected the fleet's crew and spread during a full assembly. It was an unfortunate coincidence that the battleship had been infiltrated by infected individuals. As the brain plague spread, a series of decisions made by the fleet commander and the chief navigator inadvertently led to the disappearance of the entire fleet. Tang Xiao explained, "But even if you present these results to the Republic's parliament, your Victory-class Star Destroyer still won't secure large-scale orders." Bagheera Ulan responded, "I invested a significant amount of money to persuade Willix Blissex, the talented designer from Quarter Power Dock, to join us and create the Victory-class Star Destroyer. The research and development costs alone exceeded 400 billion, not to mention the expenses are establishing the production line. According to our simulations, if we exclude the fighter factor, the Chaser-class battlecruiser has less than a 30% chance of defeating your Coal-class battlecruiser. However, the Victory class has an 87% success rate. This isn't just about the performance of the battleships. If you continue to see it this way, I believe our conversation might as well end here," Tang Xiao remarked calmly. Bagheera Ulan narrowed his eyes. "You seem to know quite a bit." "There are many things I know that you don't," Tang Xiao retorted with a sneer. "Lundili is merely a decoy for the Quat power dock. It seems you're not in a position to discuss this matter," Bagheera Ulan countered sharply. "That's correct. The Trade Alliance, the Fourth Group, the Dawn Planet, the Technology Alliance, the Enterprise Alliance, they're all decoys," Tang Xiao said, approaching the projection with an air of mystery. "We share common ground in recognizing this, which means we should continue our discussion." "Lundili will not join the Separatists," Bagheera Ulan stated, shaking his head. However, he didn't seem angry, seemingly conceding to Tang Xiao's point. The Victory class cannot be part of the Separatist fleet. Moreover, there will be a 1-month delay in delivering the spare parts for your batch of Dreadnought-class heavy cruisers. This delay is to give Wilhelm Tarkin time to deploy his troops," Tang Xiao noted, unsurprised. "This is the only way you can manage the political pressure from the Parliament and deliver the parts to the Republic's enemies." At the same time, it allows the Dreadnought-class heavy cruiser to engage the Republic's main fleet directly, showcasing the strength of the Dreadnought class and the prowess of Lundely Interstellar Dynamics Corporation. I enjoy conversations with intelligent individuals, young governor. You've earned the opportunity to access my private communication frequency. Congratulations, Bangira Ulan said, looking at Tang Xiao. Congratulations to Lundely Interstellar Dynamics Company for seizing the last opportunity, Tang Xiao replied, extending his hand to shake the holographic projection, a gesture symbolizing their agreement. Vol 2, Chapter 863, The Outcast of the Times. After concluding the communication, Tang Xiao gazed at the now vacant space where the Bangron holographic projection had previously been, his smile tinged with sarcasm. The decline of Lundely Interstellar Dynamics was not without reason. Clinging to their former glory, they continued to see themselves as the venerable industrial titans of the galaxy, leading them astray in a series of critical decisions. A cursory glance at the history of the Galactic Republic reveals that the shipbuilding industry's initial giants were Corellian Engineering, Core Galactic, and Hirsch-Korscher Drive. Although Lundely Interstellar Dynamics boasts a long history, it couldn't hold a candle to these three behemoths at the time. However, Lundely played a pivotal role in the dissolution of Hirsch-Korscher Drive, seizing many of their assets. This move propelled them into the spotlight with the launch of the iconic Hammerhead-class cruiser, which played a crucial role in the Sith War. Alongside Quat Power Dock, which had also absorbed the core galaxy system, Lundely emerged as one of the new titans of the Galactic Republic's shipbuilding industry. Yet, their downfall was precipitated by arrogance. Their refusal to align politically led them to fall behind. In contrast, Corellian Engineering Company, with the backing of the unique Corellia Galaxy, a system boasting 5 habitable planets, maintained an unshakable status, bolstered by the Corellia Corridor. Quat Power Dockyard, with its forward-thinking approach, had invested early in Shift Palpatine and actively engaged in cartel organizations, including the Technology Alliance and Trade Alliance. Their involvement in political and business circles was not just active, but could be considered radical. At a time of political uncertainty, Quat Power Dock took a significant step by flouting the Rusin Reforms regulations and launching the Cheer-class assault landing ship, which blatantly disregarded every clause of the Rusin Treaty. They also commenced the development of the Chaser-class battle cruiser. In stark contrast, Lundely Interstellar Dynamics lacked a core competitive edge. Without Corellian's stable market or Quat's boldness, they were stuck in the past. As the galaxy underwent transformations, Lundely persisted in their reliance on the Dreadnought-class heavy cruiser, without even discontinuing the production line of the Hammerhead-class cruiser, which dated back more than 4,000 years. Lundely believed their Dreadnought-class heavy cruisers, designed to fulfill every mission of the Galactic Republic's judicial fleet, would ensure a steady stream of orders. They launched an improved Dreadnought version, reducing the crew requirement from over 16,000 to 2,204, and celebrated what they saw as technological progress that would satisfy the judicial fleet. Indeed, the judicial fleet initially placed an order for 200 new dreadnoughts, forming the Blade Fleet. However, the Blade Fleet's maiden voyage ended in disaster when all 200 warships vanished. The disappearance was attributed to a flaw in the newly installed automation system, leading to the cessation of all orders. As the political climate within the Galactic Republic worsened and conflicts escalated, the judicial fleet's orders began shifting to Quat Power Dock, especially after the Battle of Naboo. Lundely mistakenly believed the shift was solely due to the Blade Fleet's disappearance. They invested heavily in locating the lost fleet, unaware that their failure to adapt to the changing galaxy and their inability to recognize the importance of political alliances were the true reasons behind their decline. In the intricate web of galactic politics and warfare, the fate of Rendili Stardrive was a testament to the swift currents of change that could render even the most established powers obsolete. Initially, Rendili had dismissed the disappearance of the Blade Fleet as an unrelated anomaly, not a failure of their automated systems. It was only as war loomed on the horizon that they were allies their grave miscalculation. In a desperate bid to catch up, Rendili hastily recruited the talented designer Willix Blissex from the Quarter Power Dock to begin work on the Victory-class Star Destroyer. However, by then, it was already too late. Quarter Power Dock had rapidly dominated the military market with their innovative designs: the Cheer-class assault landing ship, the Chaser-class battlecruiser, and the Aquitens-class light cruiser. Their strategic investments in politics had also paid off handsomely. Sheev Palpatine, having ascended to the position of Speaker of the Galactic Republic, reciprocated their support by funneling all military orders directly to Quarter Power Dock, blatantly favoring them over other manufacturers. Rendili Star Drive watched in horror as they were sidelined, a realization dawning that they might have been left behind by the tides of time. Despite their storied heritage spanning over 20,000 years, which allowed them some leverage to struggle against their declining fortunes, the progression of the war only deepened their crisis. Even after the Victory-class Star Destroyer was designed, Bangira Ulan's attempts to appeal directly to Speaker Palpatine were in vain. Palpatine dismissed the designs without a second glance, continuing to award the Republic's battleship contracts to Quarter Power Dock. The industrial might of Quarter Power Dock was fully unleashed, with their shipyards on the Quart planet operating at full capacity, churning out thousands of warships. In contrast, Rendili Star Drive found itself scrambling for scraps of orders from the Legion governors, managing to secure only a meager number due to the superior performance of the Victory-class Star Destroyer. Yet, even these were not enough to salvage their situation. Politically astute Legion governors, like Wilhoff Tarkin of the 18th Army, openly distanced themselves from Rendili, refusing to compromise their positions by associating with a company falling out of favor. Tang Xiao, having acquired the Blade Fleet, was well aware of Rendili Star Drive's predicament. His knowledge, both from the plot he knew before his transmigration and the intelligence he gathered in this world, confirmed Rendili's dire situation. Despite this, when he confronted Bangira Ulan, it was clear that Rendili still harbored hopes of reversing their fortunes, unwilling to accept the reality of their decline. Tang Xiao, understanding Bangira Ulan's stance, subtly hinted at the inevitable betrayal of the Galactic Republic by Rendili, a move born out of desperation. However, this betrayal was something Palpatine had anticipated and even counted on. It allowed him to justify the complete transfer of military contracts to Quarter Power Dock, ensuring their unwavering loyalty to the Empire. This strategic foresight by Palpatine was a seed planted a decade ago, setting the stage for the eventual downfall of Rendili Star Drive and the unshakable alliance between the Empire and Quarter Power Dock. Now, Tang Xiao aimed to see if he could salvage anything from Rendili before their inevitable collapse. The 20,000-year legacy of Rendili Star Drive represented a formidable force, one that could potentially challenge Quarter Power Dock's dominance, if only for a brief moment in the vast expanse of galactic history.